Davin was born at a disadvantage, missing one arm, but the cruelest misfortune he would suffer in his life was being born on the same day and month as Kajin, a child blessed by the sword god with both looks and talent. Davin's mother would always curse him, "If only you were Kajin, that would be wonderful." Every night she would whisper into her son's ear, "Why don't you just die, you brat?" These bitter words were a far cry from what his father had promised when he was still in the womb. They had once lovingly held Davin, seeing him as the hope to become even more exceptional than Kajin. Just like that, Davin became a disgrace, crushing all his parents' hopes. Through some cruel twist of fate, just as Davin was learning to stand and walk, Kajin had already learned to wield a sword. By the time he could hold a blade, Kajin was already mastering mana and training at the Samian swordsmanship school. That constant comparison made Kajin someone Davin both envied and admired. At 7, he was sent away to be Kajin's attendant. On the surface, he was the helping hand, standing by his cousin's side, but in reality, Davin's parents had sold him for 300,000. "Luden, under the blizzard!" Davin screamed in agony, his face covered in blood. Before him, Kajin was playing around as if it were all just a game. "Ha ha ha! For the first time I'm seeing someone as pathetic as you." From the start, Kajin disliked Davin, so he always used him as his punching bag. Davin had to hold back his tears no matter how much pain he felt. Even the adults out there just turned a blind eye. Davin's uncle was a brilliant man, but he had long since left the family and never returned. Because of that, no one was there to keep Kajin in check, and he grew up to be more of a madman than an admirable prodigy. His innate talent and the sword god's blessing became a poison that corrupted him. He treated everyone like garbage, forcing them one by one to duel him. Even if they surrendered, he showed no mercy. The next one was Davin. He was so jealous of Kajin's strength and talent. Just like that, he didn't hesitate to charge in, wanting to become stronger. Kajin glared and ruthlessly shoved him away. "Don't look at me with those pathetic eyes, I can't stand you. A one-armed loser like you dares to look at me like that? You think just a little effort is enough to beat me? Go ahead and try. Someone like you could try for your whole life and never even match my pinky finger." Davin lay still as he was kicked repeatedly in the face, the young man gritting his teeth and enduring it. I wanted to beat him, even knowing that dream was impossible to achieve through effort alone. The more famous Kajin became, the more he neglected his training, chasing women, drinking, and even getting hooked on stimulants, yet Davin still couldn't defeat him. However, things couldn't go on like this forever. Right there in the arena, the two clashed again. Davin used every ounce of strength he had, including the skills he had honed for so long. After a finishing blow, a deafening explosion rang out. Everyone froze at the sight before them. Davin had defeated the Sword Storm, Kajin. Until now, Davin had lost 21 matches in total, but at 29, he had finally defeated him. In those previous fleeting matches, he had always lost, and everyone kept telling him to just give up. They mocked Davin, saying he was a talentless loser wasting his time, but in the end, he won. From the stands, the chants of Davin filled the air. He looked straight into Kajin's eyes. "How long do you think you can keep acting so arrogant?" Kajin, still in denial, snarled, "I lost to a loser like you?" Davin replied bluntly, "If I were you, I certainly wouldn't be like you. I wouldn't waste my life on women, booze, and drugs. I would live a more meaningful life and leave my footprints on the peak." In the end, Davin had won. But as he limped away, Kajin couldn't control himself. From behind, he thrust his sword straight through Davin. This sneak attack made Davin realize that until the very last moment, Kajin was just a coward. Blood gushed from his mouth. In the throes of agony, Davin thought, "It hurts. I finally defeated Kajin, and yet..." The holy sword of sunlight, the sword passed down only to the descendants of the Samuel clan. It contained the mana of the Samuel clan, demon-repelling mana. Even if the Gala Sanctuary appeared, I wouldn't have a chance to survive. Opening his eyes, Davin saw his body bound tightly. "Is this hell?" A tall, muscular man wearing a mask and wrapped in chains looked at him with confusion. "Hell? You're lucky. Who would have thought the miraculous Gala Sanctuary would appear in the arena? The Saintess herself is the one who healed Davin's mortal body with a miracle just like her name. That was the only reason Davin could survive. His entire body had been destroyed. Now he could only breathe. The man with red eyes asked, Did you sign a contract with a demon? Seeing Davin's surprise, the man narrowed his eyes. Why are you so surprised? Only by signing a contract with a demon could a loser like you ever defeat Kajin. Your parents already admitted it, so why bother denying it? Davin recalled the expressions on his parents' faces. It was like pure resentment. Oh, so that's it. According to that guy, blood and sacrificial offerings were found at his house. He insisted that Davin was a demon who had taken the lives of 300 innocent children in exchange for power. Again, the horned man pointed right at Davin. Young master, Kaijin took you down to protect the honor of the Samuel house, executing his own cousin and childhood friend by hand. The young master must have been very heartbroken. Davin wasn't sad at all. He retorted, finding it all laughable. Ha ha ha, I get it now. I defeated Kajin, but I never touched the clan. Yet they chose him instead of me. And just like that, Davin was branded as having stained the family honor, so his mana would be sealed, and he would face a life sentence forever. The tendons in Davin's hands and feet were completely severed, his mana sealed by layers of chains, and he was thrown into a prison cell with his eyes blindfolded, never to see the light again. The trash, Kajin, came before him to mock him. This state really suits you, Davin. I've become the Sword King, and everyone out there praises me as a brilliant swordsman. All of that is thanks to you. Thanks, you piece of scum. After the day Kajin came to humiliate, the amount of food brought to the cell grew smaller and smaller. Davin now looked no different than a starving, dried-up corpse. Even my internal organs feel like they're giving out. You start coughing up blood when it's finally time to check out of this life. I still wanted to hold my head high. I was supposed to die in that cold, desolate arena. If I hadn't lost my arm, would my life have turned out differently, Davin? I collapsed, wondering. If I had been a recognized son, if I had been blessed by the sword god Kasak, would my life have been any different? The moment that Tear fell was the moment Davin passed away forever. But in the darkness, a spark of light ignited. As soon as he opened his eyes, the young man saw someone slapping his arm. No, wait, reaching for him. An elder of the clan is talking to you. Are you even listening? Vincent felt the pain in his right arm. It was so real, there was no mistaking it. Could this be a dream? But if it is, why does it feel so damn real? The man standing before him was an elder from one of the clan's branch families. He jolted in surprise. Wait, did he just call me Vincent? The seventh son of Aiden Kaga? What is this? Why are these memories flooding my brain? Even so, this dream doesn't feel like a nightmare. The air is so fresh. There's none of that disgusting, musky stench from the underground prison. In this dream, I have my right arm back. Is this a parting gift before I kick the bucket? The man kept blabbering on while Vincent stood there like a fool, which only made him angrier. How long do you intend to ignore me? Vincent suddenly felt a surge of mana. It was powerful enough to hurt. Instinctively, the young man reacted, creating a physical barrier to push the opponent back. It was just a reflex, like he always used to do. But it released an terrifying amount of force, shoving the man far away. Vincent was stunned. Back when he was Devon, this move was never this strong. The young man froze. He could only apologize and offer to help the man up, but the elder slapped his hand away. You insolent brat! Just because you belong to the main branch, my son will crush you without mercy! This would be the first time a branch family has ever overthrown the main line. Listening to this, Vincent started to get the picture. This man is exactly like my father in my past life, always obsessed with beating my eldest uncle. The moment he realized he couldn't achieve that dream, he started projecting it onto his kids, and as a result, most of them turned out to be unfilial sons. The elder spat bitterly. Get out of my way. I won't forget your arrogance and rudeness today. Just wait until the sword conference begins. Vincent collapsed onto the plush chair, breathing it all in. This isn't a dream, is it? I should have woken up by now. Now, other memories are coming back. My mother passed away right after giving birth to me. My father never cared about me for even a single minute. All the other kids treated me like a punching bag. To vent their anger. Out of the 8 children of the prestigious Adenka sword clan, I, Vincent, am the 7th. I was so cowardly that I would just cower and hide in my room, crying after being tortured by the youngest in the family. An ugly duckling abandoned by the main branch of the Adenka clan, a target for the branch families looking to move up. Davin, a man with one arm, has now become the pathetic Vincent of the Adenka clan. I have no idea what the hell is going on, but I'm certain of one thing. I've reincarnated. There's a diary on the bookshelf. Vincent decided to open it. The diary was filled with Vincent's self-loathing. It seems his self-esteem had hit rock bottom, and he had just given up on everything. Vincent thought to himself, it seems God has finally answered our prayers. Kid, until my very last breath, I wanted to live. And you, Vincent, you always wanted to leave this world. I wonder if it's really like that. The one who wanted to die disappeared, and the one who wanted to live was resurrected. Suddenly, a voice echoed throughout the room. Do you really intend to believe such nonsense? Vincent jumped in shock. Who are you? The voice replied, Are you naive or just stupid? Vincent broke into a cold sweat, becoming defensive. Is this a demon trying to trick me because my reincarnation shouldn't have happened? The voice spoke again. Why are you overthinking this? I am the original owner of this body. My name was Vincent. But since I've given this body to you, I no longer hold that name. From now on, please call me Julian. Vincent stared blankly. Didn't you die? How can this even be possible? Julian smiled brightly. A divine revelation. Vincent was still confused. A revelation? You mean something the gods grant to humans? I've heard that those blessed at birth can sometimes hear divine revelations. So, are you saying you're a god? Julian replied excitedly. That's right. However, I'm just a lesser deity. I intended to summon a true spirit, but you took that place instead. If I want to become a true god instead of just a lesser one, I need to achieve countless feats. We call them trials. If I complete my trials, I can become a true god. Vincent hesitated, feeling annoyed. I understand your situation, but I have no interest in your feats. If everything you said is true, and I have been reincarnated, I'm going to be very busy living my own life. I don't have the time to listen to the whims of some ghost. Julian kept that cheerful expression. That's right. I gave up on my life and you wished for it. That's why this happened. However, my spiritual power is extremely weak. If it disappears completely, and that body of yours will be wiped out too. You don't have a problem with that, do you? Vincent sighed, glancing upward. What? Are you threatening me? This body is too healthy to die anytime soon. As soon as he finished, Julian did something that instantly drained all of Vincent's energy, causing him to collapse to the floor. See? How naive. From now on, I'm going to show you my true memories. The space around Vincent suddenly shifted and many butterflies transformed into a bolt of lightning that struck him right in the chest. All of these were terrifying memories, but beneath them were unimaginable thoughts. These memories showed that the character wasn't desperate at all, just faking cowardice. He was laying the groundwork for revenge. Sweating and waking up, Vincent was still in shock. Are these really the thoughts of a 13-year-old? What kind of world have I reincarnated into? Julian finally revealed his true colors. So? My acting was perfect, wasn't it? I have to escape the family's surveillance. The subjects I want to study are considered on the level of apostles. Now, are you willing to listen to me? This won't bring you any harm either. Vincent finally decided to sit down obediently. Julian got straight to the point. All right. Do you know about the great archdemon Davin and the valiant King Kajin? Upon hearing this, Vincent jolted so hard he stood up, his face showing extreme frustration. You just said, the great archdemon Davin and the valiant King Kajin? He tried his best to stay calm to hear what Julian had to say. This happened 500 years ago. The one-armed swordsman Davin escaped from the Samian dungeon after making a deal with the devil. He wiped out thousands of lives to become stronger. It's rumored he killed 10,000 people with his own hands. That's why he was recorded in history under the name Archdemon. Vincent was once again shocked to his core. The great archdemon Davin from 500 years ago? That means I've come to the future 500 years later? This doesn't make any sense, but how many people could have such a coincidentally matching name? And with the same Samuel family bloodline? I must have died in that dungeon 500 years ago, right? The Samir family abandoned the one-armed man and chose the Holy Sword. When the one-armed swordsman died in solitude, the Holy Sword became the Sword King, but they twisted history and talked about the great archdemon and the valiant king like that. They made up such terrible lies. The wretched Samir family. Vincent was furious, frustrated enough to slam his hand against the ground. He never expected them to smear his name to that extent. Julian, still oblivious, continued excitedly. The valiant King Kajin was a dear friend who loved the great archdemon Davin deeply. Isn't this story just so romantic? Vincent struggled to restrain himself, bowing his head before barking, "Shut up and stop that disgusting act!" I even swiped all the books off the table. Seeing this, Julian didn't understand what was happening and became flustered. "Why are you so angry?" Vincent snapped back. "Because history has been completely twisted." Julian wondered, "Are you someone from that era? You must be pretty old." "Don't be mad, old man." Vincent still tried to hold back, just grunting. Nothing could be more frustrating. Julian floated in the air and said, "After all, history is just the story written by the winners." Vincent looked up and asked, "How is a 13-year-old talking like that?" "Kids grow up fast these days, not like in your time." Vincent sighed wearily. "Fine, whatever. Just keep talking." Julian took the opening to continue. The valiant king swallowed his tears and cooperated with the exceptional hero of that time, who was also the close friend of the Solar Sword King, to defeat the great archdemon Davin. Vincent was listening to his own story and didn't even know who the Solar Sword King was. He had never heard that name before. Julian looked surprised. "Oh, you don't know who Aslan is? Hai is the ancestor of the Adenka family." Vincent, as if remembering something, snapped his fingers in excitement. "Aslan? You mean that clever little brat? Ha! He became the first head of the Adenka family?" Recalling the time when he was Davin, Aslan had come before him, looking up to him in admiration. "Hello, Lord Davin. I'm Aslan. I admire you so much. When I grow up, I want to be just like you." Even though at that time, Aslan was still small, he was his friend and student. Back then, aside from his self-loathing, Davin had very little confidence. He even thought, "What good is a one-armed man like me?" Aslan still visited him in prison several times. Aslan even expressed great outrage, insisting, "You never committed any crime. Power will never overcome the truth. I will certainly guarantee that. I will certainly restore your honor, no matter how long it takes." From the moment Aslan said that, he never visited again. Julian continued his presentation. "Hai is the first head of the Adenka family and left a lifelong mission for us. It relates to my achievement, which is to surpass the Samian family. We must fight for the truth." Vincent listened, his eyes seemingly glazing over. "Fight for the truth? Truth? Is it a coincidence?" Aslan definitely said he would reveal the truth, and he was someone who knew my story. It seems this definitely isn't a coincidence, even if I don't know the whole story. But I, on the other hand, understand this matter all too well. Aslan Fanko abandoned the Fanko clan to start the Adenka clan. He wanted to fight for the truth. Adenka is a new clan created solely to restore Davin's honor. Vincent feels that perhaps it's fate that he was reincarnated into Aslan's clan. Vincent seems to calm down, listening to the guy from the Adenka clan, asking, "So, my mission is to carry out the assigned tasks? If I complete that mission, will you really become a god?" Julian nods. "That's right. If that happens, you'll truly become the master of my body. And if I ascend to godhood, I can even grant you my blessing. This is a win-win for both of us, isn't it?" Vincent feels a surge of determination. "Thank you, Aslan. I will take on the mission you left behind. I will surpass the Samian clan. I will climb to the top of the clan that betrayed me by becoming a part of them." He storms out immediately, and Julian follows him, complaining, "Hey, old man, where are you going?" Vincent is too annoyed to even answer. "I told you to stop calling me old man." Julian remains playfully and stubbornly naive. "Come on now. If you're from 500 years ago, you're definitely an old man." Suddenly, shouts erupt outside. The battle is starting. Many people are wearing armor and holding shields. Vincent wonders what kind of martial arts people in this era use. How much has martial arts actually progressed after 500 years? Just how much stronger have the descendants of Kajin in the Samuel clan become? Just thinking about it makes Vincent excited. But suddenly, his body breaks out in a cold sweat and feels incredibly heavy. Before he knows it, the guy passes out. Vincent thinks, "This kid's body is such trash. He blacks out way too easily. This body is so pathetic that if you didn't use mana to control it, you couldn't even live a normal life." While sitting in the training room, Vincent suddenly senses a strange flow of mana. He startless and calls out, "Julian, where the hell did you go?" Still in his pajamas, Julian appears, yawning widely. "Why are you looking for me all of a sudden?" Vincent frantically shakes him. Why don't you learn swordsmanship?" Julian is a bit rattled but replies, "Because I'm sick, so I can't learn it. Don't ask me why, I was born this way." Vincent is still worked up. "You have a holy bone. Why on earth aren't you learning swordsmanship?" Julian rips his pillow away. Let go of me. What even is a holy bone, and why are you being so intense? Vincent screams, explaining. You can store mana anywhere in your body. More precisely, you can store mana in your bones. Seeing the blank look on Julian's face, Vincent is exhausted, not knowing how to explain it. Listen carefully. Martial artists need to use mana to gain superhuman strength far beyond ordinary people. Usually, red mana is stored in the heart, but having a holy bone means that besides the heart, you can store it in your bones too. That means you have an endless source of mana. Julian's eyes go wide, still looking completely innocent. Oh, that's amazing. I actually have something like that? Vincent keeps trying. It seems you still don't realize how important it is. Kajin, the guy you call the Brave King, he also had a holy bone. Julian points a finger, replying that he can't associate the symbol with the heart. Vincent is baffled, having no idea what a symbol is, and gives such a confused look that Julian feels helpless. What's with that expression? Seriously, this guy. Since when did I have to explain all this stuff? A symbol is an image that represents mana. Vincent winces, snapping back. What are you talking about? Isn't mana supposed to be stored in the heart? What about meditation methods? It seems these two aren't on the same page at all, making the conversation quite frustrating. Now it's Julian's turn to be confused. What meditation method are you talking about? Then it's Vincent's turn to explain. What do you mean, what method? The Fanko clan were the first ones capable of storing massive amounts of mana in the heart, weren't they? Julian's eyes widen. In our time, we store mana in a symbol and call it a star. And the number of stars shows each person's power. People haven't used their bodies to store mana for a very long time now. In other words, there isn't anyone left who does that. Vincent sighs, helpless and unable to believe this harsh reality. He walks to the window and looks up at the sparkling sky. He finally understands. Every person in the family has to gather at least one symbol, connect to it, and feel the mana. That is the first condition to achieve one star. It seems the method of gathering mana in a symbol is to avoid the dangers that occur when mana is stored in the heart. He draws his sword and stares at it. In the past, many people faced danger using that method because if it explodes, it's absolutely catastrophic. But Vincent is doing something different, which makes Julian very surprised. Wait, stop! Are you gathering mana in your heart right now? Vincent asserts that his heart is very strong. If you want to become stronger, you have to accept the challenge. Back when I was Devon, I used this method myself to become stronger. Julian stands behind him, panicked. Wait, why are you letting the mana scatter everywhere like that? You got the incantation wrong. Don't you know the magic circuit formula? Vincent was losing his mind over all the noise. He wondered if there were any other formulas, to which Julian clenched his fist and replied, Of course there's a more efficient way to channel mana. Vincent sighed, realizing he was just trying to reminisce about the old days. The magical energy will convert and explode in just a few seconds, Julian lamented. So we're just gonna die like this? Vincent stayed optimistic. In other words, think of it as having half a life left. That's fine, right? He flopped onto the bed while Julian started throwing a fit about the body. That's not even yours, so you're just gonna treat it like trash? Please show some respect, will you? All right, I'll show some respect, Happy. But why do you even care so much about this body? After hearing that, Julian looked bewildered. Vincent continued, This body doesn't look bad, and the heart is pretty healthy. You just need to live peacefully as a family member. And what about Samian? Didn't that work out? Symbols are important for gathering mana, but the body itself needs it too. Because of how difficult that is, no one has seen one in 35 years. At this rate, Vincent Adenka's body will kick the bucket before even reaching adulthood. The sky turned pitch black, filled with twinkling stars, while Vincent focused all his strength on meditating. To him, meditation could help avoid many things, but everything has its limits. He probably only had 15 years left, just enough time to become a Sword King, which was also the time Devon would reappear and be imprisoned, eventually starving to death. Just thinking about it brought tears to Vincent's eyes. What a miserable life. Those years were so terrifying he didn't even want to look back. Devon had endured so much back then. Just then there was a knock at the door. Thump, thump. What are you doing in there, young master? Answer me! Vincent looked blank, not sure who it was, but the person couldn't wait and burst right in. Seeing the messy room, he looked shocked. Good heavens, what on earth happened in here? Young master, what kind of trouble have you been causing? Vincent slowly stood up and asked a completely deadpan question. Are you my servant? Why are you asking such weird things? What? Of course I am! Who else would I be? Recalling his memories, Vincent confirmed this man was Wilson, the one whom Julian would personally execute in 3 years. Vincent decided not to overthink it. If he was a servant, he'd put him to work. Perfect timing. Bring me a clean set of clothes. And then try to clean up this room on your way out. Wilson was left stunned and confused. What just happened? Why does he look so much more confident than usual today? Is this really the weakling Vincent I know? Wilson frowned, looking annoyed. Young master, what did you do to turn this room into such a disaster? Don't tell me you were messing around with some crazy experiments again, Vincent answered calmly. No, I wasn't. Before he could finish, Wilson started blowing up, shouting that Vincent was no different from a mess, and how dare he deny it. You hide in your room reading books all day like a maniac. What good does that do? You definitely learned dark magic, didn't you? I'm reporting this to your superiors. Vincent decided to put this servant in his place. My, it's rare to see a servant talk to his master like that. You keep trying to do things your master doesn't want, which means you never had any intention of listening from the start, right? These sudden, firm words made Vincent stutter for a moment. Vincent continued, I know I've been making you work harder than usual, but don't you see that as your duty? Wilson kept his defiant attitude and shouted back, I already told you I'm not doing things I don't want to do. What do you think I'm even here for? Vincent glared straight at him. Right, you're just a servant. Am I wrong? Finishing his sentence, he snatched the clothes out of Wilson's hands. If you don't want to do it, then forget it. I'll go get my own clothes. Wilson started sweating nervously. Where are you going, young master? Vincent replied coolly. I'm going to see Mr. Chamberlain to find some clothes. And I'll tell him I had to come because Wilson refused to do his job. With a reluctant attitude, Wilson finally gave in. I'll do it. Who said I wouldn't? I'll clean the room too, so just leave it there. Vincent had been such a coward before that even a servant could be this arrogant. They must have an ulterior motive for acting like this. Julian chimed in from the side. Yeah, I think so too. Vincent felt they were just a bunch of people who didn't know their place and liked to provoke others. They needed to be shown what the seventh master of the Adenka family was really made of. Julian informed Vincent that Wilson was part of a cult that had murdered hundreds of people. What should we do? Hearing that, Vincent only felt more intrigued. Is that so? Listen closely. A murderer always carries a different kind of energy, but I don't feel that from him. He's just a piece of trash. His eyes are still so naive. I just see a coward. Julian was shocked. Aren't you the one who used to be that kind of person? If not, how would you understand it so well? Vincent looked back with a sharp gaze. Because I've lived through this life once before. Julian suddenly felt a chill down his spine. He couldn't figure out what was wrong with Vincent, but Julian began to feel terrified. Could he have summoned something even more horrifying than the Demon King? With a look of extreme annoyance, Wilson carried the freshly washed clothes inside. Here you go, sir. I finished washing your clothes from yesterday. Are you satisfied with how I cleaned the room, sir? Vincent put on a satisfied expression, even though the room was ridiculously clean. The young man sat cross-legged on the chair, composed and smug. Thanks for your hard work, kid. Wilson was still grumbling under his breath. Please, for the love of heaven, don't turn the room into a battlefield again next time. Vincent replied nonchalantly, Fine. I won't do it again. But deep down, he felt a sense of satisfaction seeing Wilson becoming more compliant. He thought to himself, what could a good-for-nothing like Vincent actually do, even if he acts all arrogant like this? He continued ordering Wilson around. Wilson, bring me a wooden sword, about 1 meter long, like this one. It would be great if it weighed about 500 grams and was made of black wood. There should be a ton of them in the storage room. The guy Wilson started acting up again. And what if I refuse? Vincent continued his lesson in discipline. The young man stood up. Damn it. If you won't do it, I'll go get it myself. How am I supposed to explain to the gatekeeper when he asks why I had to go get it personally? Oh, right. Wilson, do you know that the guards in the storage room are elite fighters? And they are fiercely loyal to the descendants of this family. Wilson was absolutely terrified at this point. Wait, why are you acting like that again, sir? Seriously, hold on a second. The moment Wilson reached out to touch Vincent, he reflexively tackled him hard. Oops, sorry about that. I have quite a lot of bad memories about being hit from behind. Wilson looked confused, as he had never heard of such a thing happening before. Vincent turned his head and emphasized, then all the better. From now on, keep that in mind. In reality, the young man was struggling to hold on. Tackling Wilson took a lot of his energy, and his whole body ached. It was truly painful. He could feel the frustration radiating right behind him. Vincent glanced back and continued to provoke him. "What? Is there something you want to say to me?" Too scared, Wilson suddenly became as obedient as a puppy. "Oh no, sir. What did you say? 1 meter of black wood, was it?" Vincent wasn't done yet. "Hello? Didn't you just say you didn't want to go get it?" Wilson jumped like a madman and immediately headed for the door. "I didn't say I didn't want to do it, sir." Out of habit, he slammed the door with a loud bang to show his attitude, but then, fearing Vincent's retaliation, he cracked it open to explain, "The door slammed shut because of the wind, sir." "I didn't mean to!" As soon as he left, Wilson started plotting his revenge. "I can't afford to lose to him again. I'll show him why I'm Wilson," he thought, wearing a haughty and dismissive expression. Wilson brought back exactly what Vincent asked for, with a typical rotten attitude. I was feeling smug about his bratty behavior, thinking, "How about that? Feels pretty miserable, doesn't it? Do you really think I just handed over to you so easily?" Vincent closed his book and looked at him with one eye. "Wilson, you know, of all the people I know, there's one who has no right arm. Because he didn't have a right arm, his life was quite difficult. In fact, he ended up meeting a very tragic fate at the end of his life." It was as if he had realized something. Wilson abruptly handed the sword to Vincent and bowed his head. "Here is your wooden sword, sir." While bowing, he felt bitter. "Damn it, this is so humiliating." Wilson gritted his teeth. "I have finished the task you assigned, so if you'll excuse me, I'll take my leave." Another sound of a bitter door slam as Wilson left. Vincent put everything aside and focused on the sword. "All right, now I need some proper training exercises." I was currently training by himself with 2 wooden dummies. He knew this holy bone was very weak, but he didn't expect to be exhausted after just a few swings of the wooden sword like this. It seems like there's still a long road ahead. However, Vincent felt like this sensation was amazing. It was as if he were born to be a martial artist. Just then, some freak appeared out of nowhere. Because his mana was too weak, he didn't think anyone was using mana at all. Standing before Vincent's question, this person introduced himself as Eradicate, not forgetting to add one more sentence. "Aren't you that good for nothing, Vincent?" In a moment of silence, Julian, from another space, reminded Vincent that Eradicate was only a reserve descendant. Vincent was quite surprised to suddenly hear the voice of. Julian continued, "He is also just one of the candidates predicted to win the upcoming sword conference. You met his father before this, didn't you?" At that moment, Vincent was finally able to confirm that the man he met back then was indeed the father of this kid. "Julian didn't forget to warn me. Be careful. He's a talent from the reserve lineage, the most skilled among the 13-year-olds in the Adenka clan." Eradicate sneered. "I'm guessing if I win the sword conference this time, I'll have to face you, so I came to find you." Hearing the name Sword Conference, Vincent was suddenly startled. It was a real sword tournament, gathering kids from various martial arts branches of the Adenka clan. Since there were no age restrictions, people usually joined the sword conference at 14. It was said that the champion would have a chance to fight the official successors of the Adenka clan at the same age. Official successors had to fight the champion. Vincent, the useless one, was considered the weakest among them. Eradicate was already acting like a madman. "You're not going to run away from me just because you're scared, are you? At this upcoming sword conference, things won't end with just wooden swords," Vincent retorted bluntly. "How could a martial artist be afraid of a sword?" Hearing that, Eradicate laughed maniacally. "Ha ha ha! I guess you've gotten very talkative since you became an official successor, huh?" Vincent crossed his arms, determined to win the war of words. "You talk a pretty big game. Even provocation needs boundaries and proper standing." Vincent said this because he was truly annoyed. How dare this guy mock someone who was actually training? It was way too rude. Even Devon, with his missing arm, respected both training and sparring, and even Kajin respected him. Vincent was determined to put him in his place. "You're hacking away at someone else's training dummy. You're a disgrace to all martial artists. You should be ashamed of yourself. I guess your father, being from the reserve lineage himself, taught you how to act like that, huh?" Eradicate was furious, jumping up in a rage. "You bastard! How dare you insult my father!" "I've decided. I won't forgive you from the moment you insulted my father." Julian reminded him again that Eradicate was at level 2, and his affinity had reached the steel stage. Vincent needed to be careful because either way, he was stronger than Vincent right now. Deep down, Vincent thought, I know I'll lose if I fight him right now. But he clearly reeks of that low-class attitude of someone raised as a reserve successor. He's using mana, even though I haven't managed to control mine yet. His father doesn't even act like an adult, and his son doesn't know the etiquette of a martial artist. The mindset of martial artists these days is nothing like it was 500 years ago. I must make sure he learns this in my time. Vincent pointed his sword straight at Revan, saying, Someone like you needs to be taught by the eldest in the clan. Revan was surprised by Vincent. Someone he thought was a coward was actually pointing a sword at his face. He thought to himself, from the moment he pointed that blade at me, I knew he didn't stand a chance of winning. But why is the atmosphere so tense? Is he seriously going to cut me down at any moment? After a few minutes of intimidation, Vincent pulled his sword back and said, If you get scared just because of a few wooden swords, I feel like I can take you on at the sword conference. In the sword conference, things won't just end with a few wooden swords, do you understand? Revan Adenka gritted his teeth, unable to contain his rage. He lunged forward immediately, deciding to take Vincent out right then and there. Seeing this, Julian was terrified, hiding behind Vincent, and shouted, What are you doing? Dodge quickly, Vincent! Vincent replied calmly, Don't worry, Julian. He can't hurt me. At that same moment, a man appeared and held Revan back, saying, Young Master, stop! You cannot fight young Master Vincent here. Revan shouted angrily, What? Let go of me! Seeing the situation settled, Julian sighed in relief. Thank heavens. Vincent stood to the side, looking smug. See, I told you. The blond man continued, If you injure young Master Vincent here, he'll have an excuse to avoid this match. You have to fight him at the sword conference, so please, restrain yourself. Revan begrudgingly agreed. Fine, then I'll see you at the sword conference, coward. After returning to the room, Julian wouldn't stop complaining. Seriously, why did you provoke Revan back there? If his guard hadn't stopped him, you could have been in real trouble. Vincent acted arrogantly, replying, All I did was teach that brat who doesn't know right from wrong a lesson. Julian asked, confused, I'm going crazy. How did you end up like this? I had to make plans to summon the Spirit King after all. Vincent stayed very calm. Oh, sorry. That's why I'm learning what's happening in this era from you. Vincent looked at a photo of himself as a child and whispered, Is this a portrait? Julian angrily snatched the photo away. Hey! Focus. Don't get distracted by random things. Have you finished learning the theory of phantom images yet? Stay focused on magic and the 5 elements. Vincent asked about affinity. Julian explained that affinity is what humans create to gain power from blessings, a self-made blessing. Hearing this, Vincent was startled. What? You can create your own blessings? That's disrespectful to the gods. You'll be punished. Julian pouted and said, What are you talking about? You don't exactly respect the gods either, do you? You should be grateful that no one has died from divine punishment yet. Vincent pressed on. Revan has an affinity too, right? So, what exactly is the Iron Heart blessing? Julian explains that the Dwarf King's blessing covers a lot of things. These attributes grant the recipient more power, and the more special the blessing, the greater the opportunities. It opens up a path to become stronger. It's like branching tree limbs. The Iron Heart blessing is mid-tier. It boosts both defense and attack. Vincent thinks it over for a moment, then replies, Sounds like something new and pretty interesting. Julian adds, Exactly. You're going to become so much stronger. Vincent thinks to himself. Just as Julian said, that wooden dummy was cut clean in half right at the neck. Raven showed me an achievement that's hard to believe, even compared to the people of my own time. Is that the power of an attribute? To fight someone like that, I need to get used to those skills. Early the next morning, Vincent heads to the training ground again. He works tirelessly, practicing with a wooden sword. The guards watching are stunned. Is that really the young master? They whisper to each other. He's swinging his sword with his left hand. He'll get bored of this in no time. Everyone knows how he is. He usually starts flailing wildly after just 2 or 3 swings. Suddenly, someone steps in to interrupt. Don't speak so harshly about him. Seeing Merlin, the group shrinks back in fear. The deputy commander, Merlin, says calmly, Is there something so funny about the young master of Adenka training his martial arts? Hearing that, they panic and quickly stammer, We apologize. They immediately scatter. Merlin glances at Vincent training and sighs, whispering to himself, That's what I wanted to say. But look at him. Everyone always calls him the disgrace of Adenka, a man who swings his sword mindlessly without any attribute or mana. People always look down on him. Julian whispers nervously, "They're talking about you. Shouldn't we be training in the woods instead?" Vincent replies, "Do you think I have the time or energy to go all the way there?" Vincent remembers this past and says, "I'm already used to being looked down upon by others. Since no one expected it, I, Raven, defeated the sword dance, but I actually did it. I've turned defeat into victory with this body before. I need to try even harder." Suddenly, Merlin walks over, hands Vincent a drink and says, "Here is a mana recovery potion. It will make your training much easier." Vincent takes the bottle and asks, "Who are you?" Merlin quickly explains, "I am the deputy commander of the White Sword Unit." Vincent probes further, "Are you mocking me?" Merlin replies, "To be honest, I was, but your eyes, they look like they're craving something. Anyone who mocks a warrior like that is truly despicable." As soon as he finishes, Vincent says, "Merlin, I will remember that name." "Excuse me, aren't you supposed to be on patrol right now?" "You can go now." Merlin bows quickly and replies, "Then I shall take my leave." Merlin watches Vincent's determined figure, feeling an odd sensation. Something has changed. "Good luck to you, young master." Vincent works day and night, practicing from morning until night, day after day, alone with his wooden sword. Vincent trains until he is completely exhausted, only then sitting down to drink. At night, he diligently writes something down. Recalling his training, Vincent thinks to himself, "Plant the right foot for balance. Add the rotation from the hips. I can feel the mana in my chest. I'm finally starting to feel it." Davin. The path to defeating Kajin. Vincent reflects on the power he felt while fighting Kajin, whispering, "The sword path must follow precise points. Only then can the full power be unleashed." He immediately continues training, each strike swift and decisive. Seeing the results, Vincent can't help but feel a surge of joy. "I did it. I've mastered the sword technique." In another corner, Wilson is grumbling angrily. "Damn it! How many days has this been? He's not a rooster, so why is he eating at 5 in the morning? His training just makes more work for me." Thinking about this, Wilson gets an idea. Why not insult him a little? He brings the food over and says, "Young master, breakfast is served." Wilson slowly opens the lid, and Vincent is shocked to see the plate is already missing a portion. Looking at Wilson's mouth, which is smeared with food, Vincent says angrily, "If you want to sneak a bite, at least don't be so obvious about it." Wilson feigns ignorance. "What are you talking about, sir?" Vincent retorts, "If you had a conscience, you'd at least wipe your mouth. I can let it slide this time. But I hope you don't push your luck." Wilson quickly wipes his mouth. "You know I used to be a criminal, right? I might look like this, but I've already taken care of quite a few people, you know." Vincent bursts into loud laughter upon hearing that. "Scared, are you?" Wilson says smugly. But before he can finish, Vincent uses his mana to exert pressure. "Controlling others through intimidation might be easy, but you can't scare me. That's why I'm not crushing you with brute force." Wilson, startled, hurries to ask, "Young master, you have mana? Since when?" Vincent calmly replies, "The important thing is that I'm using it right now, don't you think?" Wilson nods. "Yes, sir." Vincent continues, "Stop putting on an act in front of me and come stand by my side. Soon, you won't have to feel humiliated for serving me, Vincent. When the time comes, you'll have to decide. Fight against me or serve me with absolute loyalty." Wilson steps outside, looks back into the room, and asks, "What on earth are you talking about?" "Even if you press me like that, there's no way I'll listen to you." He slams the door shut, pondering for a moment before he starts to feel genuinely shaken. Why did that loser young master suddenly become so cool? Elsewhere, Merlin strolls past the swordsmanship training ground, thinking to himself, "Looks like young Master Vincent arrived early today." Suddenly, Merlin is startled by something. He stares at the straw dummy and exclaims, "What? This straw dummy was sliced in half with a single precise strike? No way! From what I can see, young Master Vincent was only using a wooden sword, wasn't he? But looking from this angle, this is way too precise. How could he have improved this much? Young Master Vincent, what kind of swordsmanship are you studying?" At this moment, Vincent is relaxed, enjoying his breakfast. Once finished, he changes his clothes. Wilson submissively sits on the floor, folding each piece of clothing for Vincent. Julian says with amusement, "Isn't it fascinating how that bastard Wilson has become so obedient? I was just a little stubborn, that's all. Leave him be, he'll fall into line." Suddenly, Vincent lifts his sleeve to inspect it and asks Wilson, Is this clothing of mine made of Leviton fabric? Wilson, looking confused, asks, What fabric was that, sir? Vincent explains, It's cheap and cost-effective, but it gets dirty way too easily. This quality isn't good enough for a noble like me. And speaking of food, compared to our family's budget, the quality of these meals is pathetic. Julian, curious, asks, What do you mean by that? Vincent replies, Someone has been stealing the money. They definitely embezzled it. Julian is surprised. What? Is it Wilson? Wilson stammers. Leviton, embezzlement. Seeing Wilson trembling with fear, they feel helpless. Vincent says, It's not Wilson. He wouldn't dare. It must be someone above him. While Revan is training hard. Revan's toned physique is enough to make the ladies swoon. Revan recalls Vincent saying, Why are you so afraid? Thinking of this, Revan can't help but feel enraged. He screams, Who's afraid? Revan slashes his wooden sword wildly. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door. Revan, are you in there? You seem to be training very intensely, son. Hearing the voice, Revan turns around. Father. Revan's father says harshly, Revan, you don't have much time left. Until the sword festival, that is. We need to escape this life of poverty and misery. If you want to help our branch family, then you must defeat Vincent. Hearing this, Revan replies, I know, father. Revan's father grips his arm tightly and shouts, You must become one of the members of the branch family capable of toppling the main house. Do you understand? Faced with this pressure, Revan can only nod, Yes, sir. Revan thinks to himself, The festival is coming up, so father is more on edge than usual. Day by day, his obsession just gets worse. Vincent, if I just beat that bastard father and our family, could return to the days of prosperity they once had. On the other side, Julian says gleefully, So it's finally finished. Information on the participants of the sword festival. Vincent says, What the hell is this? Not only their personal info, but their signature techniques and even their habits are all here, Julian says smugly. How about it? Pretty amazing, right? Vincent turns to him and replies, You're terrifying, you know that? You're giving me goosebumps. Julian laughs. I'll take that as a compliment. Vincent asks, Your plan is to create a massive spectacle at the sword festival by borrowing the power of the Spirit King, right? Julian replies, Exactly. And this magic stone, it's a mana jewel, the prize for the champion. If you absorb it, your body and your mana will instantly become much stronger. It's as magical as its name suggests. Vincent silently thinks, based on the information he gathered and Julian's expression, I can clearly understand just how much this kid wants me to win. It would be humiliating for a warrior to lose when I have all the information and everything I need, Vincent says. Even if I'm not the Spirit King like you, I will win this tournament to get what I need. Vincent immediately rings the bell to call Wilson. Wilson, out of breath, opens the door and asks, Yes, young master, what do you need? Vincent gets straight to the point. There's something I need you to do for me, Wilson. Somewhere else in another room. A voice called out from outside, It's me, Wilson. May I come in? Wilson slowly opened the door and asked, Are you still doing well? Ryusa, seeing Wilson appear, asked coldly, What is it? Sensing her unapproachable aura, Wilson trembled, thinking to himself, A level 7 sword master. She's terrifying. He replied, The young master, Vincent, has something to send to the head of the house. Ryusa responded calmly, Is that so? It seems he didn't even dare to come and see the head of the house himself. Wilson continued, He wants the head of the house to attend the sword convention. He said he will prove his own worth as a member of the Adenka main branch. Before he could finish, Ryusa said, The head of the house never attends the sword convention. He has neither the time, nor any reason to. Before she could finish, Wilson pulled out a paper, placed it on the table, and said, This is the price for the budget embezzlement. Your job is to make the impossible possible. Hearing these words, Ryusa dropped her guard. Ryusa's voice sank as she asked, What did you just say? Wilson quickly replied, No. I was just relaying exactly what the young master told me to say. Ryusa said angrily, That's enough. Get out of here. As soon as he finished speaking, Wilson dashed away. Ryusa thought to herself, He could have come here himself. No, even if he had come himself, it wouldn't have been any more intimidating. He intentionally sent Wilson to show me that he's the one in charge, huh? In the end, he really has gotten much smarter. Elsewhere, a man was training relentlessly. Ryusa slowly walked inside, sensing his presence, and the old man called out, Ryusa! Hearing the call, Ryusa replied, "Master, the young master, Vincent, would like to invite you to attend the sword convention." The man spoke up. "It seems you've been concerning yourself with too much lately." Ryusa, "Stop doing such meaningless things." Before he could finish, Ryusa quickly explained, "He said he would prove his own value as a member of the Adenka main branch." Hearing this, the old man fell silent and said, "Prove his value? Ryusa, do you truly think Vincent is qualified to speak about his value within this lineage?" Ryusa replied, "Of course not. That is exactly why he promised that this time he would prove his worth." Ryusa bowed solemnly and said, "Please attend, master. I will be the one to bear witness for you." The head of Adenka replied, Do you know what that means?" Ryusa answered, "I do. If young Master Vincent cannot prove himself, I will sacrifice my own life." The head of Adenka expressed, "I don't understand why you would go this far." Ryusa replied, "That is because young Master Vincent struck a nerve with my own weakness." The head of Adenka pressed, "It's because of the budget you embezzled, isn't it? Surely you did all this for Vincent's benefit. You intend to use that money for his future?" Ryusa looked ashamed. "It is my fault." The head of Adenka continued, "I have no reason to intervene in that. It is your own business. I don't want to get involved much, but regardless of what method that brat uses to express his intentions to me, as long as he doesn't lose a shred of his dignity, is that brat truly Sarvana's son?" Then the head of Adenka stood up. "Fine, you win. I will attend the sword convention." Time flew by, and the day of the convention arrived. The handsome young men were already present. Revan stepped into the hall carrying a heavy burden. He muttered, "Prepare yourself, Vincent. Today I will definitely defeat you." Revan glanced up at the spectator stands. A figure caught his attention. Revan wondered, "That person is... no way. The head of the Khan family?" Seeing Khan, Revan smirked, thinking, "He must be here to watch me." The rising star among the branch descendants compete. This is my chance. I will defeat you looking cool in front of the master. Just then, the referee's voice rang out. "The sword convention may now begin." As the signal ended, Revan said excitedly, "How annoying! Just get lost already, that's enough." Faced with this, Revan's opponent didn't show fear. He raised his sword high and said, "You dare to be so arrogant?" Suddenly, the sword shattered into pieces, making Revan startle and shout, "What did you just do? Do you think that trick would work against my steel body attribute?" Afterward, Revan kicked his opponent hard. Witnessing the match, Revan's father shouted excitedly, "That's right! That's it, Revan!" Everyone present exclaimed, "So that's him, the rising star among the branch descendants. He's so young, yet he's already reached the 2-star threshold. And that defensive attribute, so impressive. Could a branch descendant actually win this tournament for the first time in history?" Vincent stood to the side, thinking, by the standards of 500 years ago, they are all geniuses, extremely brilliant geniuses, but they have almost no deep understanding of swordplay. Their strength comes mainly from their own attributes. From their movements, I cannot see any combat experience at all. It's as if they are puppets dancing on a piece of paper. That must be why he can use his attribute and attack so recklessly. Celebrating his opening victory, Revan arrogantly bowed to the cheering crowd. He thought, "I give you credit for not running away. Vincent, hurry up and climb up. I'll be waiting for you on this side." Clan leader Khan was watching the tournament intently. The atmosphere in the hall grew increasingly heated. One by one, everyone was easily defeated by Revan. The announcer's voice rang out, "Stop! The match is over." "You win, Revan Adenka," Revan said with a smug grin. "It's over. I, Revan Adenka, have defeated all my opponents. Now, per the rules established by the elders, I will face my close friend, Vincent. Adenka, in this final match of the Sword Festival, I will fight the direct descendant of the clan." As he finished speaking, Vincent proudly replied, "I accept your challenge." Vincent stepped onto the ring, and the two stood face to face. The man standing between them introduced himself. "I am Jason, the referee for this sword festival." As both prepared, Vincent cut him off. "Wait, I have one condition." Vincent called out loudly for Wilson, who immediately brought him a wooden sword. Vincent said with total confidence, "I will only use this wooden sword and my left hand to fight my distant relative. I'll also give you a 3-strike head start." Hearing this, Revan's father was utterly bewildered. What is he talking about? The people sitting nearby exclaimed in shock. "I've heard some negative rumors about him. Has he finally lost his mind?" "I don't know. Vincent continued. Until those first 3 strikes are done, I won't move a single step from where I'm standing right now. As soon as he finished, Revan roared in anger. What the hell are you doing? Vincent, how long are you going to keep mocking me? Everyone began to gossip. How ridiculous. Doesn't the young Master Vincent not know a single thing about martial arts? So what if he's a direct descendant? How can he be so arrogant? Revan's father yelled furiously. Young Master Vincent is just making excuses for when he loses. Right then, Clan Leader Khan calmly replied, I allow it. Hearing this, Revan's father reluctantly nodded. Yes, sir. Clan Leader Khan spoke up. Vincent, you'd better prove your words with actions. Vincent confidently replied, I will, Clan Leader. Once that was settled, Jason said, In that case, the battle against the direct descendant begins. Both sides, get ready. Revan shouted furiously, Come at me, Vincent! Vincent smiled and replied, Did you not hear what I said? I told you I'm giving you a 3-strike head start. Jason waved his flag and said loudly, Start! As soon as the command was given, Revan immediately hissed, Fine then, die in that position. I immediately attacked. Vincent calmly watched, counting the first strike in his mind. Flashback to a moment ago, Vincent had told Julian that there was a high chance it would be a short thrust. As predicted, Vincent dodged to the side and said, Let's see how long you can stay arrogant. As the blade brushed his neck, Revan thought smugly to himself, Got him! Vincent thought, most of those were just sloppy swings. The real attack will be the second thrust. At this moment, Revan arrogantly boasted, I've got you trapped now. Facing this, Vincent calmly mused. His movements are so predictable, I didn't even need Julian's intel to see it. Because his special ability prevents him from taking damage, he doesn't even pay attention to the basics. Vincent frowned and said, From the very beginning, proper swords aren't meant for just thrusting. With just a flick of his hand, Vincent blocked Revan's strike. This made Revan gasp. He just deflected my blade? Impossible! To even see where my sword was going, he would have to be levels stronger than me. Vincent smirked. I've let you attack twice now. As he finished, Revan flew into a rage. You bastard! Don't act so high and mighty just because you learned a few cheap tricks. Then, Revan frantically went for the 3rd strike, but unfortunately for him, Vincent easily caught his arm. He then used his foot to trip him, leaving Revan unable to keep his balance. Immediately after, Revan fell hard to the ground in pain, screaming. Vincent said coldly, That was the 3rd strike. Revan asked in confusion. How did you... Vincent thought to himself, Julian, I will keep my promise to you, and the promise I made to Father. He picked up the wooden sword. Now it's my turn to attack. Witnessing this scene, everyone was left open-mouthed in shock, and the referee, Jason, was no exception. Clan leader Khan couldn't sit still. He frowned, observing the situation. Revan's father screamed furiously, What are you doing? Get up, Revan! How are you struggling against someone who doesn't even know how to use mana? Even Revan was confused, wondering to himself, What is going on? Julian asked in surprise, What just happened? I see, Vincent, someone replied. That's basic hand-to-hand combat. Standing still without attacking is also an effective form of defense. That method allows you to observe your opponent. There are many ways to suppress an opponent without using weapons. After a moment of thought, Revan said, Now I understand. To gain such an advantage in such a short amount of time, it must be thanks to that little spirit helping you. Aren't you ashamed? Julian snapped, and as soon as he finished, Vincent angrily retorted, That little spirit? He's crossed the line. Vincent replied, If it makes you feel better to think that way, then go right ahead. But those thoughts of yours end here, Revan. Furious, Revan shouted, Shut your mouth! These cheating tricks of yours end right here! Seeing the situation, Julian panicked and yelled, It's dangerous! Dodge to the left to block that strike! Vincent calmly replied, I know. Vincent quickly dodged to the side and used his sword to parry the attack. He whispered to himself, Damn it, my chance has come. Vincent immediately slashed his wooden sword at Revan's neck, leaving Revan stunned. What the? Why doesn't it hurt at all? Revan's father overheard this. He flew into a rage. Of course! A training sword could never break through a defense as hard as steel. Vincent thought to himself, With a body that hasn't been trained much, I can't use any powerful skills yet, but if he's confident enough, he'll attack with that move again. Once more, Revan laughed smugly. Let me show you that our gap can't be bridged by your mediocre talent. Vincent calculated the timing, preparing to exploit the force of Revan's attack. As Revan lunged for his next strike, Vincent immediately unleashed a lethal blow. Revan was sent flying backward. Vincent called out, "Referee Jason, you'd better find a way to stop this disaster." Those words left Jason wide-eyed with shock. Vincent knew he only had one chance, so he immediately lunged forward to attack, thinking to himself, "If I use this skill again, my body will shatter. I have to finish this while he's still suspended in the air from that move." Revan was stunned by Vincent's attack and roared in anger, "You bastard!" Watching Revan's movements, Vincent thought, "I can see the starlight that Revan left behind, and the starlight I'm creating. The sword path is connecting us both. Watch closely, Julian. This is the technique I've been practicing." After speaking, Vincent unleashed a strange, masterful stroke for Julian to witness. Instantly, Vincent's wooden sword severed Revan's right arm. Seeing this, Revan's father gasped in horror, his eyes wide. Lord Khan was amazed by Vincent's strength. Vincent thought, quickly exploit the opponent's loss of balance, execute the ultimate technique, and use it to control everything, including the opponent's movements. "This is what's called swordsmanship," Revan screamed endlessly. "My arm! My arm!" Referee Jason couldn't believe his eyes. "No way!" Vincent turned to him and said, "Referee, what are you doing? Do I have to cut off his leg too before you declare me the winner?" As soon as he finished, Jason immediately raised the flag and declared Vincent the champion. Revan's father rushed over, shouting, "Stop the bleeding, quickly!" The referee looked worried. "Medicine alone won't work. Call the healer. Bring the healer here." Vincent smugly said, "I told you to find a way to stop it." Jason heard this, bowed his head, and replied, "I apologize. That was my fault." Julian looked intrigued. "Why are you so calm?" "Your body has reached its limit. You need to get some rest." Vincent coolly replied, "I know, but now is not the time to rest." Vincent said, "I kept my promise, father." Lord Khan sat calmly on the stands, watching. Vincent thought, "I told you I would prove my strength to the Adenka family." After a moment of deep thought, Lord Khan replied, "I understand. The champion of the sword festival is Vincent." Vincent stood below, looking up at his father. Lord Khan told everyone, "Go inside. The award ceremony will begin." By now, night had fallen, blanketing the castle. Everyone was gathered there. Lord Khan took out a shining object and placed it on the table. He said, "The one who has won will receive this magic stone." Vincent stepped forward, bowed, and accepted the prize. Suddenly, Revan's father burst in, shouting, "This doesn't make any sense! There must be some trickery involved!" "He must have borrowed the power of some minor spirit." The healer behind him added, "My lord, there has been a small problem." Lord Khan asked, "What problem?" The healer explained, "It seems like the young master's arm. Revan's arm cannot be reattached." Revan lay on the bed, his severed arm being desperately treated by healers, but he was in extreme pain. Charlie couldn't believe it and asked, "What did you say? Will Revan only have one arm forever?" The healer bowed his head and expressed, "I am deeply sorry." Charlie nearly went insane, grabbing the priest by the collar and questioning him loudly, "You are priests! How can you not even handle reattaching an arm? This is a type of wound we have never seen before." In another aspect, Julian was a bit worried and called out, "Vincent," but he just frowned, not saying anything yet. "Julian, let the other priests leave. I'll stay behind to analyze this wound. It's incredibly strange, hard to even comprehend. It seems like it was severed by something that my divine power simply cannot control. If we don't act quickly, even a high-ranking priest won't be able to heal him." Charlie is already in tears, and he angrily accuses, "Just look at him, Patriarch. A mere third-level priest like him can't even heal this single wound. He must have studied dark arts. There's definitely some evil power helping him." As soon as he finished, the others began to whisper and murmur among themselves. Julian finally speaks up. "Is this going to be okay?" Vincent asks for permission first. With the Patriarch's approval, Vincent steps forward, speaking with perfect calm. The Sword Grand Festival was held in the presence of the Patriarch. Therefore, any and all actions taken must have been approved by the Patriarch's authority, and the Patriarch has declared that I am the final victor. So, all of your words have been flatly rejected by the Patriarch's own authority. This place is gathered with many distinguished guests, Charlie. Do you truly believe your own understanding surpasses that of the Patriarch? Cornered by the question, he bites his lip, sweat beginning to pour down. Before he can offer any excuses, Vincent immediately gives the order. "Jerome, arrest him!" Jerome hesitates and asks, "My lord, he is..." Vincent confirms. That's right. He is the father of my opponent, Revan. Charlie clenches his fists. What? Even if you are a descendant of the main bloodline, how dare you? Before he could finish, Vincent glares at him, challenging him. Are you questioning the patriarch's authority in this place? Need me to say more? Jerome doesn't dare disobey and replies, I will follow your command. He walks over, uses rope to bind Charlie, and forces him to his knees. The man screams, What are you doing? Let me go! At that moment, Patriarch Adenka's voice rings out, cold and sharp. Charlie, do you realize that you are in debt to Vincent? The laws of Adenka do not forgive the same offense twice. If Vincent hadn't handled this here, you would have had to face the punishment of the clan. As fathers ourselves, I will spare you this once. So don't you dare complain ever again. Charlie finally turns pale and bows his head. Yes, Patriarch. Patriarch Khan then turns to praise him. You did well. Vincent places a hand over his heart and bows slightly in gratitude. Julian, looking genuinely amused, laughs and asks, You look so happy, what's up? He scratches his head and replies, It's nothing. I'm just a bit embarrassed. It really is a precious experience to be praised by the Patriarch. On the bed, Revan can't hold back the pain and cries out. Seeing this, Charlie panics and turns around, calling out for Revan. The priest approaches, using his divine power to dull the pain. At this point, his right arm can never be saved. Revan in agony tries to whisper, No! Julian leans close to Vincent and whispers to him. Vincent asks suspiciously, Will this really be okay? Julian insists, This will definitely be a beneficial opportunity for us. Seeing the logic, he nods. All right, I'll do as you say. Vincent then walks over to the priest. Priest, that right arm. Can the divine stone help heal it? The priest looks flustered. That is, I thinks to himself in confusion. That reward was supposed to be used to heal young Master Revan, and now he's asking me to use that very stone? Vincent smiles, guessing his thoughts. I suppose you think it's possible. He says clearly, I am the one who severed Revan's right arm. Would it be all right if I handle this situation? Patriarch Khan frowns and says, Fine, I'll let you handle it. Vincent walks in front of Charlie. Revan mocked and laughed at me in the arena. The man desperately pleads, I'm sorry. It's my fault for not teaching him better. I sincerely apologize. Please forgive him. Vincent unexpectedly draws a sword from someone in the room. The owner cries out, My sword, Vincent says. Everything should be proven through actions. He swings the sword, cutting Charlie's bindings. While he is still stunned, Vincent sets his conditions. Show me the repentance of a family head. Then, I will use the divine stone to heal Revan. Charlie asks suspiciously, What is it you want? Vincent's eyes are cold as he stares at him. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. And as for the right arm, I'm going to need the right arm of someone else. Charlie is completely shaken, his pupils contracting, veins bulging. Vincent coldly looks at Revan on the bed, mocking him under his breath. What a pathetic waste. I know he's completely awake now. He refuses to speak up, regardless of how things are unfolding. Is the right arm really that important to you? Where has the filial piety of this generation gone? After a moment of struggle, Charlie grabs the sword, places his right arm on the table and says, Fine, I will sacrifice my right arm. Even so, Charlie is trembling uncontrollably. The sharp blade slowly descends. Julian remarks, Looks like he really loves his son, doesn't he? Vincent replies, Yeah, it looks pretty bizarre, but it's still fatherly love. Charlie grits his teeth. I have to do this for Revan. I have to cut off my own right arm. He lets out a loud shout, raises the sword high, and prepares to strike his own arm. At that very second, Vincent glances to the side coldly. I told you to prevent any risks, didn't I? In the blink of an eye, Jerome swings his blade, shattering the sword that was about to cut Charlie's arm. He gasps for air, terrified, as if he still can't believe what just happened. Jerome finally acts in time and lets out a sigh of relief. Vincent chides him. I hope you put this courage to better use next time. With that, he kneels before his father, reporting that everything has been taken care of, Father. Are you satisfied? The family head gives a faint smile, picks up the magic stone and says, Well done, Vincent. Vincent holds his hands out to receive the stone, then brings it over to the priest and says, Do it now. The priest complies, taking the stone and holding it in his mouth, while channeling his holy power. Rings of light appear. "O goddess of healing, please show us your mercy and grant us a miracle." After the prayer, he crushes the stone. The power within it merges with his holy energy and flies toward Revan's arm, knitting the wound back together. Charlie looks delighted. As Revan's arm heals, Julian exclaims that the magic stone is truly precious. Vincent smirks. "You're the one who told me to give it to him." Julian looks a bit regretful and sighs. "I still can't help but feel sad about it." Vincent empathizes slightly. "True, that's a hard item to come by." Outside the door, Wilson is eavesdropping, his face beaming with excitement as he whispers to himself, "The young master is so cool, like seriously cool." He remembers when Vincent once told him, "There will come a time when you must decide whether to oppose me or pledge your loyalty to me." Now Wilson has made up his mind. He clenches his fist. Absolutely. Absolute loyalty is way cooler. Wilson stands in the doorway, grinning from ear to ear as he looks at Vincent. "Young master, I'll start preparing dinner right away." Vincent nods. "Very well," and tells him he may leave. Julian asks, "What's gotten into him?" Vincent leans back in his chair and says, "Isn't that what you wanted? The fact that he sees me as his master?" Julian sighs. "Of course not. I'm aiming for something much bigger than that." Just then, a knock comes at the door. Julian wonders, "He's already back? How so fast?" Vincent sits up straight and says, "Come in." A man in a cloak enters and asks, "How have you been lately, young master?" Vincent is confused and asks, "Who are you?" The man places his hand over his heart and bows respectfully. "Good evening. I am Dulan, a priest of Geyer." Vincent wonders, why would a priest come here? The man steps closer to the table right in front of him and replies, "I came to express my gratitude for what happened earlier." This leaves Julian completely surprised. "A priest came here to thank us?" The man holds out a magic stone and says, "Please take this." Vincent is puzzled. "Why would you give this to me?" Dulan answers, "I am returning this miracle stone to you because you helped heal young Master Revan today. To see those suffering stand up again and smile with happiness is the reason I became a priest." With the glowing stone in his hand, he continues, "However, when I saw young Master Revan today, I found myself at a loss for words. I had placed the value of the magic stone and human life on a scale. And like a pillar holding things up, you voluntarily gave up the magic stone you had just won." He places the stone in Vincent's hand and adds, "Thanks to you, young Master Vincent, we were able to reflect on ourselves. Please take this back." Holding the stone, Vincent smiles. "I didn't really do anything. You were the one who realized it. However, accepting this is a reasonable way to show my respect for you, Dulan." Dulan bows in thanks, then searches through his belongings to find something, a card with a laurel wreath and the number 2. "If you ever need the help of the temple, please show them this card." Both of them look at the card. Dulan explains, "Though this news hasn't reached the public yet, I recently became a level 2 priest." Julian is stunned. "Level 2? He's a level 2 priest?" Vincent looks over and asks, "Is this thing that good?" Julian explains, "Good, that card. It's basically telling them, treat me like a level 2 VIP. After all, Vincent doesn't know the significance of being a priest. What is level 2 anyway? Dulan bows respectfully. "Thanks to you, I have learned a great deal. Thank you, sir." Then he leaves. Vincent holds the card in his hand and smiles. "Take care." Julian jumps onto the table in front of Vincent and says loudly, "See? We got something even better than Wilson's loyalty, didn't we?" Vincent sighs. "True, you're really good at this, Julian." The young boy is thrilled. "You're making me blush by praising me so directly like that." Vincent adds, "I don't know if it's because you've been looked down upon your whole life, but you get swayed easily when you're complimented, don't you?" Julian is startled. "That's right." Mentioning that reminds him, Father usually eats alone, but once he invited a member of the family to dine with him after the sword festival. Vincent asks, "Who was it?" The answer, the second child, the crazy sister. She had just achieved an absolutely overwhelming victory at the sword festival. Vincent asks Julian, who is suggesting that it might happen tonight. Julian nods. "That's right, 55-10. Hearing that, Vincent stands up. "My body isn't feeling all that great, but I guess I won't be getting any rest now." Julian stammers, 55, I said 55. Vincent puts on his cloak and replies, "If it's something you said, it's better to be prepared, even if it's only a 1% chance." Julian bashfully scratches his head and smiles. That's so embarrassing. Wilson rushes in from outside, throws the door open and shouts, "Young master!" Vincent turns, his voice stern. "What's all this commotion for?" A flash of worry appears in his eyes, and Wilson stammers, "It's the family head. He just—" Before he can finish, Vincent walks past him and says, "He's inviting me, isn't he? Let's go. Lead the way." Wilson thought to himself, he actually predicted all of this? Damn, that's badass. At the Adenka family estate, night had fallen. Vincent was walking alone down the long hallway when a woman with a flower in her hair appeared before him and said, "Hurry up." Vincent was slightly surprised. The woman was his stepmother. She said, "I heard you just won a battle, my son." Unbelievable at the sword festival, isn't it? He placed his hand on his chest and bowed. "Thank you, mother." He thought to himself that his biological mother had passed away giving birth to him. The woman before him was his stepmother. Julian spoke up. "That is Vesa Helen, from before she went into seclusion. She was such a formidable warrior that people nicknamed her the Giant. Currently, she holds control over everything related to the Adenka family." She turned and said, "Let's go. Your father is waiting for you." The doors to the family head's room slowly opened. The two stepped in silently. Before them sat Khan Adenka, the current head of the family and Vincent's father. He sat there, motionless, calling out Vincent's name. With that sound came a gaze filled with overwhelming authority, staring straight at him. The entire room seemed to tremble. Vincent felt like he couldn't breathe under the pressure weighing down on his lungs. He thought, "I didn't feel this way all day. This must be a test for me. He must be checking if my strength at the sword festival was real or just a fluke." Vincent looked up and said, "I don't think you need to intentionally put pressure on your own son. During a private meeting, father." The family head sat with both hands resting, a flow of mana surrounding his body. "Why do you think that?" he asked. Vincent smiled. "Because when mother welcomed me, she called you father, instead of family head." The two locked eyes. They were surprised that he could grasp the situation based on such a small detail. He raised his hand to dispel the formation. "Impressive, you caught on to that." Still maintaining the posture of a family head, he said, "I called you here for two reasons. First, to congratulate you on your victory today, and second, to see what Shackley is so worried about. Does Adenka really have that much power?" Remembering back to the day of the competition, he had shouted, "Look, family head, if a third-class cleric couldn't heal it, then how could such a technique be learned through any orthodox method? Something is definitely not right here." Vincent was also feeling a bit anxious but didn't know how to bring it up. Suddenly, it felt as if an eye from behind him was trying to see through his very soul. Vincent was terrified. It was none other than his stepmother Vesa's eyes, staring straight at him. Vincent stood frozen, sweat pouring down his slightly nervous face. Khan Adenka asked, "Is there any chance he's an apostle?" Vesa replied, "It doesn't seem so." Didn't the boy deny that himself? Vincent's whole body trembled. He wondered what that horrifying feeling he was experiencing was. Julian replied, "It must be mother's special skill. She possesses eyes that can see through to the truth." The family head asked further, "Then what kind of martial art is it? Vincent hasn't been able to use mana yet." "How could he sever the arm of a second-class warrior?" Vesa replied, "That swordsmanship is similar to the records of the Hero King." Hearing this, Vincent immediately asked, "The Hero King in your words, is that Kajin Samuel?" She said, "That's right, he wielded his sword in strange ways. And it's said that it can cleanse any evil power. It's also rumored that his sword could suppress the great devil Davin." Vincent frowned slightly, thinking to himself, "Once again, this fabricated history leaves me speechless. What are Kajin and the Samian family trying to achieve by doing this?" She stepped right in front of him, placed both hands on his shoulders, and used her eyes of truth to look at him. Vesa asked, "So, tell mother, how did you learn a sword style like that of the Samian hero?" "My son, will you tell me?" At this moment, his whole body felt dazed as he looked at the man in front of him. Vincent had called him father, but it seemed mother was the one really in charge. This conversation was an interrogation by his father about the true origin of the martial arts he was using. Just as he was stammering, trying to come up with an answer, Julian immediately appeared and blocked him. The boy said, "She has the ability to use her eyes to distinguish between truth and lies. If you give a clumsy excuse, she will definitely suspect you." Standing before the pressure of the eyes of truth, Vincent wondered. What should I do now? Tell her I'm not her son, but actually an old man. From 500 years ago? Julienne placed a hand on his shoulder to stop him. The boy wanted to test her. The eyes of truth had not left Vincent. Vesa kept urging, "Come on, quickly, tell mother." Vincent remained frozen, unable to speak, turning to look at Julienne. The boy was pulling at his hair, terrified that the woman in front of them would discover he was acting. Vincent used his experience to advise the boy. "Julienne, it's only one step." Vincent added, "Overcome your fear, it's only one step. You just need to take one step forward. The rest will follow on its own." He took that first step for the boy, flashed a confident smile, and replied, "I received a divine revelation." The answer completely surprised Vesa. The atmosphere in the large room turned slightly quiet. She spoke up. "You received a divine revelation but didn't receive any blessing? Don't you know that if someone receives a divine revelation without being blessed, it means they are an evil being?" Vincent was silent and extremely worried. "Damn it!" Julienne didn't tell me about this part. Vesa began the interrogation. "Why are you still saying nothing? You're acting very suspicious. Do you want to go through a trial at the Holy Court? Or would you rather stand before Judge Garamian Vincent and cough up the truth?" Julian, standing behind him, began to whisper what he should say. The two began to answer in unison. "If you find me suspicious, mother, you can always go and verify it with the shrine." Upon hearing the shrine, Vesa tilted her head slightly. Vincent held out the magic stone and continued. "If I were really an evildoer, wouldn't a bishop holding a grade 3 magic stone have noticed? How could they have missed it?" The stepmother wondered aloud. "Isn't that the magic stone I gave to you, Julian?" Vincent answered honestly, "Yes, this was a gift." Through her eye of truth, she could see that he wasn't lying. Her eyes showed no reaction, but she remained suspicious and asked, "Did you truly learn that swordsmanship from a divine revelation?" Vincent put a hand to his chest and replied, "I have learned many things from divine revelation. However, I did not learn this swordsmanship from it. Actually, I read records of these mysterious sword techniques a long time ago, but I was always hesitant about whether or not I should learn them." This was the truth the two of them told her. "But I didn't want to stay like that forever. Perhaps to someone my behavior seems suspicious, but if I did nothing, I would feel too weak." This was the truth of their two personas, a truth that could even deceive the eye of truth. Vincent continued, "I felt that I had to prove something. Only then can I overcome the Samian family and fulfill the mission of the Adenka family castle. I want to prove that I am much stronger than those relatives." At this moment, as Devon, he looked at Julian and smiled. "See, you pulled it off," Vincent added. "And I also want to prove myself to father." He looked at the stern man in front of him, Khan Adenka, the head of the family. He directed his gaze toward his father sitting there, "Because I thought father would be able to give a fair assessment. The temple has already cleared me. Now everything just depends on father's decision." His father sat there, rubbing his chin as if contemplating something. Vesa turned, saw him, and smiled to herself. He's rubbing his chin. He doesn't even realize it, but that's what he does whenever he's satisfied with something. Khan folded his arms across his chest and said sternly, "And this is my decision. Vincent may continue to practice that martial art." This announcement made him very happy, and he immediately thanked his father. Julian also breathed a sigh of relief, having survived the crisis. Vesa added to the family head, "You surely know that the swordsmanship of the brave King Kajin is very similar to that of the great demon Davin, right?" His face was stern and expressionless. As the head of the house, he was fully aware of this. Vesa continued, "If we say he uses the brave king's swordsmanship, the Samian family will make a fuss, claiming we stole it from them. But if we say it's the great demon swordsmanship, they won't be able to say a thing." She still had a lingering question. "May I assume your decision was made with all these things in mind?" The family head's face hardened, his gaze sharp as he affirmed, "I have considered everything that needed to be considered, my lady." Hearing the answer from the family head, the stepmother finally relaxed. She turned to Vincent and said, "Since the family head has given his approval, it means he will be the one responsible for all of this. Therefore, you must do your best to become strong and not cause trouble for him." He thought to himself, "That isn't just a warning. She is confirming the family head's decision while letting me know she has accepted it too." He bowed respectfully. "I will certainly keep that in mind." At this point, the family head stood up and added, "Vincent, you have achieved great results in the sword festival. Not only that, but you have also affirmed the standard of a direct descendant of the Adenka family. He walked forward toward him. Therefore, I will grant you one wish. What would you like? Vincent replied, I want to become stronger. Khan stood before him. That is a good answer, but that is something you must achieve yourself. He looked down at him with a father's eyes and said, Ask me for something I can do for you. Julian whispered, Tell him you want to enter the library. Vincent followed suit and asked for permission to enter the family library. The family head wondered, Only martial artists above 3 stars can enter the library. Have you reached level 3 already? He smiled. Not yet. That is why I want to take this opportunity to act like a spoiled child. He smiled. Very well. I will allow you to enter the lowest level of the library that a 3-star martial artist can access. The family head turned to Vesa and ordered, My lady, go and grant the blood lotus to Vincent. She turned and smiled. As you wish. He looked at his son and said, Take it. This is the reward for keeping your promise to me that blood lotus sword was the very blade his father used when he was young. It was the item he used when he first started building his reputation in this world. Julian added, It is the history of the Adenka family itself. Holding the sharp blade in his hand, Vincent exclaimed, What a magnificent sword! Even after being stored away for so long, it's still so sharp. Are you that happy? Julian hovered excitedly. The young boy replied, What are you talking about? I'm not that happy, Vincent said sternly. If you're this happy with just this, then that's not good at all, he smiled, because in the future, we will achieve so much more. Julian thought to himself, At first I was disappointed, because you weren't the Spirit King, but now I'm starting to wonder, if I had summoned the Spirit King exactly as planned, would I have been able to achieve this much? Although you're a bit reckless and old-fashioned, I still feel I can entrust my life to you. Wilson waited patiently in the courtyard for his young master to return. Vincent walked out of the mansion and said to Wilson, Let's go. He bowed respectfully to follow orders and was about to leave when a voice called out from behind, Vincent, talk to me for a moment. She stepped down in front of him. You must have been putting a lot of effort into planning and training lately. I'm very proud of you. Vincent smiled and thanked his mother. Vesper added, Because of that, if you become the winner of the sword tournament, you will be forced to enter the Blood Castle, as is tradition. Have you thought about how to subdue a blood demon yet, Vincent? Thinking back, the Blood Castle is one of the training academies under the Aiden family's authority. Only those who complete the trials at the Blood Castle can be considered qualified martial artists. And the requirements to enter are to win the sword tournament and subdue a low-level blood demon. He hesitated and asked, Julian, how should I answer? The kid said, You haven't figured it out yet, have you? Vincent looked straight into Vesper's eyes and said, I'm still not sure yet, Mother. This surprised her slightly. Oh my, that's a surprise. I thought you had planned everything out long ago. Vesper looked as if she could see through his body and asked, That strange sword technique, it seems that in the few times you've used it, it caused your body a lot of pain, didn't it? Vincent didn't hide it and replied, That's right, Mother. Vesper said seriously, If that's the case, then listen to me. You won't be able to take down a blood demon with just one strike if you keep fighting in this condition. You'll die. Julian hid behind Vincent and wondered, Is she giving us advice? But Vincent felt that his stepmother seemed to have started liking them more. Julian asked why he thought so. Vincent coldly replied, Have you forgotten my story? My enemies threw me into prison and twisted history. With eyes that saw through lies, and as someone trusted by the Lord, she could have accused them whenever she wanted, but she didn't. Maybe she doesn't like us, but at least she isn't hostile. Vesper spoke up, and just as she mentioned the words blood demon, Vincent bowed his head and interrupted her. Thank you for your advice, Mother. I won't let you down. She thought to herself, I was trying to explain the characteristics of a blood demon to him, but he just left without asking anything. Watching Vincent's retreating figure, a brilliant warrior, fearless and unhesitating, her heart skipped a beat. Vesper smiled. Do you see this, Sarvana? Today, your son has taken a great step on the path of martial arts. The next morning, Wilson was hanging laundry while singing, looking very cheerful. Just like every day, today I will support the young master with all my might. Just as he was in the zone, a suitcase flew and smacked him on the head, accompanied by shouting from behind, Support my foot! What are you plotting this time, huh? Wilson rubbed his sore head and turned around to complain. Hey, I didn't do anything wrong. In front of him stood a maid with a huge suitcase. She must have been planning to cause trouble for the young master. Hearing that, Wilson reacted strongly. "Don't you see I'm hanging the laundry?" The girl glanced at him skeptically. "You're really doing it?" He puffed out his chest. "Because the young master has changed. So a direct servant of the young master should change too, right?" The maid's eyes widened. After all, the young master... What? This question made Wilson chuckle. Inside the library, where only the family's martial artists were allowed to enter, Vincent was sitting and reading books, surrounded by books of all kinds stacked around him as if he were searching for something. I kept throwing books down, frustrated. It's not here. Unable to find what he needed, he scratched his head in annoyance. Why are there no records? No records from 500 years ago. Julian agreed. That's right. It's like that entire period has been wiped out, as if it were taken away. Even if there are some, they're just folk tales about the great archdemon and the heroic king. The kid added, I guessed it wouldn't be in the records, but at this point, it feels like someone intentionally erased it, doesn't it? Vincent bowed his head in thought. Exactly. The history of 500 years ago, and even the sword techniques. Someone erased it or changed it. Vincent thought to himself, I can save myself from discrimination later. Right now, it's more important to increase my sword skill to defeat the blood demon. I need a training method before the shadow technique, because I can't reach the level of the shadow technique right now. Julian looked at Vincent, puzzled. You called Father Aslan a child, and you used the sword techniques of someone rumored to be the heroic king, and you faced them. The kid asked Vincent doubtfully, Who on earth are you? Vincent hesitated. If he revealed that he was the archdemon Davin, clearly he would be shocked. Should he be worried? He crossed his arms and shook his head. That would be very disrespectful to Julian, the former master of this body. You also share the same destiny as me. Vincent sighed. Julian, listen carefully, and don't be too confused. The kid was excited. You must have a story, right? Vincent spoke up. My name is... Just hearing that, Julian's whole body felt like it was electrocuted, leaving him frozen. The kid clutched his ears and asked again, Wait, say that again. What did you just say? Everything remained the same. Before Vincent could even mention the name Raven, a loud, jarring noise rang in Julian's ears, drowning everything out. Vincent jumped up, worried, and asked, Are you all right? The boy replied, I'm fine. You don't have to tell me. I don't want to. He was just doubting that when something caught his eye and grabbed his attention. It was an old, blue-covered book titled First Love and the Water Wheel. Julian wondered, why is a book like this in the middle of a pile of books? On mana cultivation? Vincent picked it up, examined it, and replied, This library is managed by the family. How could a romance novel end up here? He smiled, intrigued. Someone has been hiding secret historical records in plain sight, the truth about the past. Vincent skimmed the lines, blushing. It was a hot summer day, and I was soaking naked in the water wheel. Neither of them expected the truth to be hidden in such a book. Maybe this is a different approach to keep opponents from suspecting anything, Vincent snapped, calling Julian over, which made the boy jump. He pointed to the book and asked, The protagonist in this novel doesn't have a concept, but they possess the trait of the power of love. This isn't an ordinary novel, he continued. Traits aren't usually used to generate mana flow, but their manifestations are triggered by the flow of mana. To achieve this, one needs to cast aside all those concepts. Without a concept, the freedom of mana makes all of this possible. Julian was shocked. No way! You can't accumulate mana without a concept. You'd die. Vincent closed the book, clenched his fist, and smiled. Right here, someone accumulated mana without a concept and lived, mana flowing through specific traits. Knowing this, we can clarify those traits too. Both were satisfied as they walked out. Julian added, Learning about traits is dangerous, even with the help of a concept. Traits are equivalent to a martial artist's wealth, so they won't easily teach mana flow to others. Vincent agreed, but added, We've found a clue to becoming stronger. He smiled, looked back at Julian and said, Let's go try it out right now. Meanwhile, the boy warned, Didn't you hear me? I said it's dangerous. As Vincent stepped out of the library, the young maid was already waiting there. She called out, Young master. She looked at him, incredibly excited. Is it true? That you defeated Raven Adenka and were granted the bloodline? He wondered. "Who is this, Julian?" The boy replied, "This is a maid named Siri. She left for a while because of a family emergency." Memories flooded his mind. He remembered her. She was one of the few who still loved that good-for-nothing loser Vincent in the past. He replied, "That's right, just as you say." Hearing the confirmation from the young master's own lips, Siri knelt to the ground. "Oh, thank God." The girl seemed moved, wiping away tears as she said, "I thought after the tournament, young master would be ignored even more." Vincent winced and asked, "Julienne, do you know how to comfort a woman?" It was surprising that an old man from 500 years ago was asking a kid about this. He knelt down, placed a hand on Siri's shoulder, and said, "I'm sorry for keeping this a secret. I'm training really hard to become a master who won't make you feel ashamed." While everyone was getting emotional, a loud voice called out from below, "Where have you been?" A familiar figure appeared. All three were quite surprised, eyes widening at the arrival of Raven Adenka. He stood there, his sharp gaze fixed on them as he said, "I have something to tell you, Vincent." In the room, the atmosphere grew heavy. Vincent and Raven sat opposite each other, with the maid, Siri, standing in the middle. She glanced nervously at Raven, who hadn't made a move, just sitting there in silence. Julian wondered. I thought he had something to say. While Siri tried to break the tension by asking, "Would the young masters like some sandwiches?" Raven suddenly stood up. He reached behind his back and pulled out a massive sword, his gaze slightly dangerous. Julian watched, feeling a bit uneasy, while Vincent was still trying to grasp the situation. Holding the large sword, Raven frowned. "I came here to pay my respects for the tournament." Vincent saw the strange action. Vincent stood up, intending to draw his blood lotus blade. He thought to himself, "Damn it, I didn't think he'd attack like this. Now that he knows my swordsmanship, my old tricks won't work anymore." Vincent braced himself, ready. He turned to the maid, worried, and said, "Siri, get out of here right now." Siri suddenly clutched at her chest in fear, saying, "But I can't leave you, my lord." Siri jumped when she heard Raven's words. "Vincent, I owe you a lot." He rested the sword on the ground and continued, "You forgave my rudeness and gave me a taste of your power. A coward like me tried using my father's money to plant eyes and ears everywhere. But then my spies returned, and my father has become gentle again." Raven suddenly knelt down. "I have regained everything, but I cannot repay you." He let go of the sword, turning the hilt toward Vincent. "Right now, I'm still just a coward, but I won't be anymore." Raven pressed one hand to the ground, bowing his head to Vincent. "For now, this is the best thing I can offer you. I swear to always be loyal to you." This was something Vincent never expected. Siri saw this and was stunned, thinking, "Young master, is Raven actually kneeling?" Vincent smiled, thinking, in the end, he wasn't a hopeless case. Julian worried, "You're going to trust him? This guy is Raven Adenka," he explained. "He placed his sword before me. This action signifies surrendering one's life to another. As a martial artist, this kid is serious." Julian scoffed, "Stupid martial artists again." But he seemed to have just thought of something. The boy smiled at Vincent. "I'll trust Raven, but I have a great idea." He drew his sword and said to Julian, "If you agree, I'll follow your lead." Vincent placed his blood lotus blade on Raven's shoulder, making him flinch slightly. He added, "I accept your oath. I will stand by you until the very end." The boy smiled at Vincent and said, "I'll trust Raven, but I've got a better idea." He drew his sword and told Julian, "If you've already agreed to this, then I'll follow your lead." Vincent rested the blood lotus blade on Raven's shoulder, making him flinch slightly. Vincent added, "I accept your oath. I'll stand by your side until the very end." "You betrayed me." Raven saw the sword and thought to himself, "I was suspicious, but is this really the blood lotus? Did the clan head actually appoint him? If that's the case, then I will." He wouldn't regret swearing his loyalty. He smiled, bowed, and thanked him for accepting it. Siri could never have imagined, even in her wildest dreams, that this was happening right in front of her. She thought to herself, he really has changed. The time when he was mocked as Vincent the loser felt like a distant, hazy dream. Julian coughed lightly, looking quite satisfied. "Sorry for interrupting just as you'd received his pledge of loyalty." His eyes lit up. "Shall we test it out? To discover the blessing characteristic of the pseudo-king from Raven?" At that same moment, at the Adenka family estate, inside the study, The clan head was writing something. Vesa stood by his side and said, "It seems Vincent is planning to participate in the Blood Fortress next year," he replied. "I already know how the Blood Demon subjugation mission goes," Vesa answered. I informed the boy about the characteristics of blood demons, but he didn't say a word. He looked very confident. Blood demons can only be attacked by those at 3-star mana, or higher when they aren't in their physical form. The reason this subjugation is a rite of passage is to see how one faces demons, and to prove they are capable of becoming a 3-star warrior. Vesa turned and added, "One more thing. A few days ago, Revan Adenka appeared at Vincent's house and has been staying there. Inside his body, a stream of mana was coiling like a thread. Julian and Revan were both watching as Vincent sat there training, manipulating the mana within. Revan stood behind him, giving guidance. Very good. Now create the circulation loop one more time." To his left, Julian was worried. "Okay, watch that direction. Be careful." Remembering a few days prior, they were reviewing the book they'd found in the library together. Revan picked it up, questioning, "You want to obtain the Pseudo-King's Blessing characteristic from me using the method in this book? Because you can't even imagine it, right?" Vincent sat in his chair, arms crossed, and asked, "Will you help me?" Revan put the book down and replied, "I'll help, if this isn't some boring trick." But he still smiled and said, "I will guide the flow of your internal energy, and you will have to train right in front of me. Basically, you have to trust me with your life. Are you okay with that?" Vincent said one thing that left Revan stunned. "You already promised to be loyal to me, didn't you?" Back to the present, Revan looked at Vincent, thinking, "Can I really trust Vincent? With my life? If I were in his position, would I? If it were me, there's no way." He smiled faintly. "There you go again. You're making me look pathetic, Vincent. But it's not half bad. This is the first time losing has actually made me happy." Seeing his expression, Revan could only marvel as the flow of mana spread throughout his entire body. Who would have thought that someone in the main family could use such a crazy method? Vincent closed his eyes tight, concentrating fully on the mana flow inside him. Julian urged, "Don't do as you please, slow down a little." Vincent retorted, "Are you going to keep lecturing me forever? You're the one who proposed the plan to use Revan to get this, Julian." The boy replied worriedly, "How can I not preach to you when you keep doing whatever you want, huh? You're just teetering on the edge of a cliff." Revan also chimed in, "Vincent, you're being too reckless. You're already fast enough. No need to rush anymore." With his past in mind, Vincent was steadfast. "This is how I live, Julian. I can't achieve anything without putting my life on the line. In those moments, you can only try to risk everything to move forward." Julian held his head in worry. "Vincent, at this rate, you're going to die." But the mana streams didn't stop, and the two ends were drawing closer than ever to prepare for connection. Just a little more, just a little more. The flow is almost perfect, if I can connect it like this. Two mana streams from opposite sides were preparing to merge. With Vincent's intense focus, Revan saw what was happening and rushed over to try and stop him. "Vincent, it's still too early!" But the two ends of the mana stream connected. Sparks of mana flickered out. He laughed, thrilled. "I did it!" His whole body was drenched in sweat, but then, snap! The mana flow that had just stabilized was severed instantly. And boom! An explosion rocked the room, seemingly blowing everything in Vincent's quarters apart. Inside, everything was shattered and in ruins. Revan stumbled, smoke billowing everywhere. He coughed, his body trembling as he fell backward, not knowing how Vincent was doing. "In the clan head's study," he asked, "there's still about half a year before the next Blood Fortress opens, right?" Vesa respectfully replied, "Yes, that's correct." He added, "Vincent has defeated a 2-star warrior. I suppose to him that was just normal strength. The stepmother is a bit anxious, and she hopes the same." Revan manages to stand up now and asks worriedly, "Vincent, are you all right?" He raises his arm and waves it, replying, "I'm fine." Revan says, a bit angrily, "You pushed yourself too hard, even I needed 6 months for that. You are extremely fast, but it should take at least 2 months. Almost simultaneously, Khan Adenka suggests a 1-month time frame and orders Vespa to relay a message to Vincent. Defeat the blood demon in 1 month at the same time. Vincent is dazed from the explosion. Julian takes the opportunity to lecture him. "What did I tell you, huh?" He stands there blankly, disheveled, with a book on his head. "I thought I had finally been reincarnated again." In the hallway, the sound of footsteps approaches. It is Ryza. She is thinking about the Master's message for young Master Vincent, stating that he must complete the handover ritual in 1 month. She worries, "You don't have much time, young master." She must hurry. She flings the room door open and calls out loudly, "Young master, are you in here?" The scene before her leaves her completely stunned. She freezes for 5 seconds. Inside the messy room, Vincent is being tended to by a maid for his wounds. Revan is also sitting there with a bandage on his head. Riza cannot help but ask, "What is this?" She seems quite angry and asks, "Young master, do you care to explain this?" Seeing the appearance of the rank 7 Great High Priestess Ryola, Revan trembles. Vincent speaks up, "Don't worry, Great High Priestess, I was just meditating for a bit." The honest maid interrupts. "Don't you dare lie," Ciri says, looking slightly angry. "I don't know much about mana, but people don't end up like this after meditating. Are you trying to make me worry to death?" Vincent is dumbfounded. "I'm sorry." The Great High Priestess notices that the young master's attitude toward others is completely different from the past. Riza bows. "I will not ask anymore since you said don't worry. Whatever meditation you were doing, you must hurry because the master has sent a message for you. You must complete the handover ritual within 1 month, you two." They sit there dumbfounded upon hearing the announcement. Julian says to Vincent, "As far as I know, Father has never set a time limit before." He smiles. "I see. That means he has expectations." The Great High Priestess walks toward the door, turns around and says, "I will personally act as your protector until this day next month." I will try my best until then." Riza thinks to herself, "Young master, you must defeat it." Revan looks at him, troubled. Vincent needs at least 2 months to obtain the False King's blessing, but 1 month seems a bit short. Hearing this, he speaks up. "Just 1 month? I have to hurry." But he is cut off by Ciri. The maid grabs the young master's hand and says, "You are not allowed to overexert yourself again, understood?" He lowers his head and turns to smile. "All right, I promise." But that hand-holding moment makes Vincent accidentally notice a difference in Ciri's body. It is mana. He realizes the maid in front of him is not simple at all. Ciri has a massive amount of mana in her body. Ciri says anxiously, "Understood, young master?" Vincent is awkward. "All right, I promise. Now you go. I have some things to discuss with Revan." And so the two women leave the room. The door slams shut. Inside, Revan says to Vincent, "1 month isn't enough. We have to find another way." Julian also asks nervously, "What should we do now?" Vincent says nothing. He raises his hand to circulate the mana flow in his body. He asks Revan, "Is this how the mana is supposed to move?" "Isn't it?" Both Julian and Revan are completely shocked, their eyes wide as they shout, "You've completed the mana flow?" Vincent sits there, smiling. "This time it worked. I can finally circulate mana as I wish. With this, I can accomplish what Father said." Julian exclaims, "He really is someone who excels at everything quickly." Even Revan cannot believe his speed. Vincent flashes a confident smile. "We don't need to wait a month." Exceeding Father's expectations, that is. 2 weeks later, at the forest near Vincent's mansion, he and Revan are standing there discussing something. Julian is also flying around him. Vincent raises both hands. "Now, I will demonstrate the characteristics." Revan nods slightly in agreement, but his expression looks tense. Julian is also concentrating, watching the situation intently. Vincent is a bit worried. It might explode like last time. "Can you step back?" Revan says, but he is extremely firm. "I must witness your success with my own eyes." Julian smiles. This guy is quite loyal, isn't he? Vincent speaks up. "I'm starting." He begins to circulate the mana flow in front of him. Before long, the mana flow is completed. 2 halves of a mana orb appear, rotating like an hourglass, and they form circles of various sizes. While Vincent is continuing, Julian notices something feels a bit strange. A hazy figure with a thick beard slowly appears behind the two of them. It is the image of a Viking dwarf with a large hammer in his hand and the signature 2-horned helmet. A massive figure with glowing eyes, accompanied by rumbling sounds. Julian trembles slightly. "Are you the Dwarf King?" "Greetings. It is rare for one like me to see you." The Dwarf King begins to raise the hammer in his hand amidst the whistling wind. He holds the hammer, preparing to strike directly down at the spot where the three are standing. Julian fearfully covers his head, while Vincent remains quite calm. However, what comes crashing down is a square-shaped barrier that surrounds them and fades the figure. Golden energy makes Vincent's hair stand on end. He keeps his eyes tightly closed, concentrating deeply. Vincent slowly opens his eyes. There is light shining on his face. The mana circles from before are now covered by a large ring, like a shield and protection. Revan stands beside him, holding his hands, saying joyfully, "The Dwarf King's blessing. The first characteristic, protection." They were now enveloped in a massive circle, a protective barrier of sorts. Revan stood nearby, gripping his hands in excitement, and said, "The blessing of the Dwarf King, the ultimate defensive trait." With his body strengthened and feeling tougher than ever, Revan couldn't help but beam, thinking to himself that he'd actually pulled it off. It hadn't even taken him a month to earn the Dwarf King's blessing, and the image of the king deep in the forest was already beginning to fade. Julian smiled too, saying to Vincent, "Let's head home." Vincent looked down at his hands, watching the golden aura radiating around him, thinking, "With this, I can definitely take on a third-tier swordsman. I've finally built the foundation to subdue the blood demon." He turned to thank the golden goat. "It's all thanks to you." He closed his eyes with a smile. "Just kill the blood demon first, then thank me," Vincent added. "But I need to ask you one more favor." That left Revan a bit puzzled, wondering what it could be. 2 days later, a red carriage was prepped for the journey. Vincent stood in front of the mansion with the blood lotus in his hand, a grin on his face as he announced, "Time to head to the blood demon's lair." He stepped toward the carriage. "My apologies for the sudden request, High Priestess." "I've decided to exceed my father's expectations," Raelza thought to herself, "instead of just sticking to the Patriarch's time limit. And leaving 2 weeks early? Will he really be all right?" She spoke up. "I have overseen this transfer ritual 3 times now. Neither the Patriarch nor his brothers nor anyone else from the Adenka clan has ever failed this trial." Raelza thought to herself, Savannah's son couldn't possibly be the first one to fail. Raelza told him, "Please, do not risk yourself on such reckless bravado, Vincent." He just offered a confident smile and said, "Don't worry, High Priestess, you're in for a surprise." The carriage rolled through the forest toward the trial site. Inside, Vincent and Raelza sat across from each other, the air heavy with silence. He said to Julian, "Having a bodyguard for a mission like this is pretty useless, isn't it?" The kid replied, "The blood demon tends to leave a few things behind. She's only here to observe you anyway." Vincent wondered aloud, "I really don't understand why I have to go through all this." "Just to prove yourself, right?" Julian sighed. "A lot has changed in 500 years. Raelza suddenly spoke up, breaking the silence. "Do you know anything about the blood demon yet, my lord?" She continued. "To subdue the blood demon, you need to be at least 3 stars. In mana level or higher, you know that, right? From what I can see, the young master hasn't even reached 3 stars yet." Julian suddenly remembered that Vincent hadn't even asked about the blood demon. Vincent replied to Raelza, "Don't worry." Could it be, he thought, that Aslan arranged all of this? Did Aslan orchestrate all of this? "The blood demon will be the first monster I conquer." Vincent added to the High Priestess, "That isn't a monster I need to know about." Raelza looked a bit worried. "Even with your swordsmanship, you shouldn't let your guard down." She frowned slightly at him. "You don't think I'm just playing around, do you?" Vincent asked with a laugh. "High Priestess, why are you trying so hard to help me?" Raelza replied, "Because I am both your guard and the supervisor for this trial." Vincent brought up the word corruption, looking straight at the woman before him, challenging her. "Were you really planning to hide that?" It was clear that Raelza had been struggling financially. As the carriage kept rolling, Vincent said, "That's exactly why I can't help but think about it." He added, "You probably think I'm too weak to do this on purpose, don't you?" Hearing what her young master said left Raelza deep in thought, not knowing how to respond. Vincent crossed his arms and smiled. "If you don't want to talk about it, that's fine too. You didn't ask about my training sessions, so let's call that fair." The carriage came to a stop, and the horse let out a loud whinny. Vincent asked, "Are we here?" Raelza turned, looked outside, and bowed respectfully. "Yes." He stepped out of the carriage and looked ahead. Julian stretched after the long trip. Vincent looked at the ruins in front of them and asked, "This is the blood demon's lair?" Raelza replied, "There isn't an exact name for this place, but people usually call it the ancient temple. Looking at this mess, who would believe this is a temple?" She explained further, "This is a memorial for Aslan's first clan leader, built after he defeated one of the remnants of the archdemon Davin." Vincent pondered. Aslan again. "And the blood demon too. It can't just be a coincidence." Raelza gripped her sword and slowly drew it. She raised the blade to her chest, mana erupting and coating her body. She was ready. After saying that, she pointed her sword toward the sky, creating a massive pillar of light that shot upward, accompanied by a booming sound as a barrier slowly appeared. The entire trial area where the three of them stood was now completely encased in a spherical barrier. Julian realized it was a mana barrier, and Vincent just smiled. This is a barrier designed to let exactly one monster through at a time. Behind a boulder, a figure with deadly red eyes and a ragged hood was watching them in silence. The blood demon was right in front of Vincent now. A massive monster with a giant scythe stepped out, letting out an eerie sound. Vincent confidently gripped the blood lotus and said to Raelza, "High Priestess, open your eyes and watch." He turned slightly, smiling, "And make sure you report exactly what you see, the way I prove myself to the Adenka clan." As soon as he finished his sentence, the blood demon lunged forward, swinging its massive scythe, prepared to strike him down. A layer of purple energy wrapped around the scythe, and the blood demon's deathly gaze locked onto Vincent. Julian shouted a warning to dodge and counterattack, but Vincent disagreed. He thought keeping distance was better when facing a foe with a longer reach, but for them, it was different. He stomped his feet, gathered momentum, and lunged forward. Better to get up close, he thought, gripping his blood lotus sword and closing in. The blood demon was taken aback, never expecting him to rush into such close range. Instead of attacking, the demon had to pull its scythe back to block Vincent's thrust. Vincent's eyes glowed crimson as he smirked. "Don't think I'll let you." "Swing that scythe around!" With a flurry of strikes, Vincent pushed the blood demon back, keeping it on the defensive. Close quarters combat is lethal against oversized weapons, Raelza thought to herself. Heavier weapons are always a disadvantage in close range, she observed, watching intently. But for someone on their first real combat mission at 54 years old, who could pull this off so perfectly? Seeing Vincent's poise and that smirk, Raelza couldn't help but think he looked as if he had defeated this demon countless times before. He continued his relentless assault. The Blood Lotus sword combined with the Dwarf King's attribute is truly astonishing. I can move this fluidly even with this body. A thunderous strike came down, but to Vincent, it was just the foundation for his own swordsmanship technique. He retracted his blade and kicked off the demon's scythe handle. The demon was momentarily stunned by that move. The momentum launched him high into the air, allowing him to retreat. Vincent landed gracefully, sliding backward until he was a safe distance away from the blood demon. So this is the perfect moment to create some space, he thought, noticing the demon looked excited, yet increasingly tense. After being forced on the defensive for so long, its next attack would surely be a wide, sweeping strike, creating the perfect opening for Vincent to close in. The demon lunged, swinging its scythe with one hand while reaching out with the other. Vincent quickly readied his Blood Lotus sword, channeling mana for a counter. Facing an enemy with so many openings makes finding victory far too easy, he mused. A surge of mana swirled around the Blood Lotus blade as Vincent steeled his resolve. I must maximize my attributes combined with my sword techniques right now. With razor-sharp focus and a perfect blend of swordsmanship and physical enhancement, Vincent unleashed a full-powered strike at the blood demon. The monster's face twisted as the scythe was knocked from its grip. Vincent appeared between the two halves of the creature, cleaving it in two with a single strike, his eyes cold and filled with dominance. The blood demon's body collapsed and was pulled into a red orb. It hit the ground with a thud before Vincent and Raelza. He turned around and laughed. "Did you see that, Great Guardian?" But she didn't react, standing still and observing, as if everything had only just begun. Raelza worried. Did he not understand why the blood demon couldn't be killed with a single blow? From the red orb, crimson energy began to pour out. It gathered rapidly, and an eye materialized. It turned out the blood demon had 2 lives, and it was preparing to strike Vincent from behind. The scythe was inches from his neck, yet he remained calm, even wearing a smile. Raelza panicked, gripping her sword and shouting, "Young master!" Vincent immediately sensed the disturbance, glanced over, and ducked just in time to evade the fatal strike. Vincent smiled at it. Even this is just like 500 years ago. But instantly, the scythe came down vertically, aimed straight for his head and chest. I was caught off guard, but thanks to his agility, he managed to dodge by a hair's breadth. He was genuinely surprised by the demon's current speed. It seems it's become much faster after its second reincarnation, Vincent noted, looking closely and realizing its appearance had also changed. Have these bastards been evolving over the last 500 years? Raelsa frowned. The blood demon was frenzied after reviving, its speed and strength significantly amplified. Towering in size, it reached out with its massive clawed hand to grab Vincent. As usual, he leaped to dodge, sending rocks and debris flying, accompanied by flashes of crimson electricity. Vincent landed. He began to realize the danger. He had been pushed back against a wall, his retreat cut off. The blood demon roared and charged. It swung with immense power. Trapped against the wall, the situation grew dire. Vincent grimaced, lucky to have avoided the hit. But Julian noticed something and kept calling his name. The boy shouted, "The wall!" Vincent looked over and saw a large gap created by the demon's previous strike, with air being sucked into it. Julian was anxious. "This isn't good, we have to change the plan." But Vincent stopped him. "No, not yet. We need to make it lower its guard first." Looking at the demon, Vincent said to Julian, "It's thinking exactly that. It's trying to corner us for a decisive blow, and once it's fully committed, we'll execute the plan." The blood demon growled. With a deathly glare, it prepared to unleash its technique. Raelsa stood on the sidelines, silently observing every detail, her hands clenched tightly. "I am the supervisor of the transition ritual. If I intervene, it means the young master has failed." She felt a pang of anxiety. "Please don't let it end like this." The future of her son. Lady Sarvana remembered the past. A girl with long blue hair and somewhat disheveled clothes reaching out, smiling. "Staying here is a waste of your potential." The person kneeling below was none other than Raelsa. The blue-haired girl added, "We are on an adventure to become warriors. Do you want to join us?" In the past, Raelsa came from a declining family and survived by stealing near the national border. Looking back, facing such a terrifying monster had been a massive shock. "But she invited me along. I even thought she was a crazy woman." The blue-haired girl laughed brightly. "Oh, right. I forgot to introduce myself. I am Sarvana. I'm so happy to see you." "So, this is Vincent's mother when she was young?" She turned around and asked Khan and Raelsa, "You two agree, right?" They were the head of the house and his current stepmother. Khan and Raelsa were familiar with each other, saying they didn't care much, while Raelsa just smiled. "It's up to you, really. Even if I didn't agree, you'd still do it, wouldn't you?" Back then, Raelsa thought she might have lost her mind after the head injury she suffered in battle. Maybe I was just too exhausted from that life of pillaging. Or maybe I was just swayed by her boldness. Raelsa reached out and gripped Sarvana's hand. In the end, I joined them on their journey. A journey that would turn into the legend of Adenka. In the forest, a pair of massive, hideous bare feet were approaching. A giant orc with a giant axe in hand prepared to strike. Raelsa stood there, sword in hand. She smiled confidently, pointed her blade at it, and apologized to it. But then, a figure with familiar long blue hair dashed past. Because Raelsa wasn't the protagonist, Sarvana was. She had leaped into the air behind the orc, ready to unleash a finishing move. In a flash, Sarvana landed gracefully, looked at her and said, "Raelsa, you're the best." As for the orc, it couldn't escape death. With a sharp, clean slash, its head went flying. In Raelsa's memory, Sarvana was an incredibly strong and beautiful woman. She had a power that made others smile, because of her innocence, her carefree nature, and the positive energy she radiated. At that point in Raelsa's hopeless life, she was a ray of light. Raelsa began to feel more positive too, but to the young mistress, Sarvana was the most wonderful person of all. That night, outside the mansion, the rain was pouring down. Inside, Sarvana lay with her eyes closed, and someone was pulling a white sheet over her face. Khan hung his head in sorrow. The servants mourned, while Raelsa held the newborn master in her arms. The baby cried loudly. The last drop of blood Sarvana left behind was in Raelsa's arms. She also looked sadly at the child in her arms. He had inherited his mother's blue hair. The child was none other than Vincent, the son of a wonderful mother. Sarvana's tears flowed, but she told herself, "This isn't the time to be sad. This is the child Miss Sarvana left behind. I will protect this child from the miserable life of being a direct descendant of Adenka until he becomes a respectable warrior." Time slowly passed, and Vincent grew older. In the mansion hallway, there was a loud commotion. Vincent's younger sister had just slapped him, then stood there laughing. Don't pretend we're friends. You loser of a brother! He could only lie there, clutching his face. The girl added, You're so useless. Instead of that, why don't you try speaking to me politely? At that moment, Vincent could only endure it, bowing his head to reply, Yes. Raelza stood behind, witnessing the whole thing but didn't intervene. The younger sister continued to laugh loudly. Just because I said so, you actually did it? She bowed her head. For 14 years, I have wondered countless times. What can I expect from this loser Vincent, and should I leave Adenka? At that time, Wilson stood outside the door, happily praising the young master for being cool. Then Raelza approached, filled with killing intent. You're creatively stupid, Wilson, she said, making him shrink back in fear. He trembled, trying to explain. It's not like that, great master. I was only speaking as a servant. The young Master Vincent has been acknowledged by the head of the house. This surprised Raelza a little. She began to change her mind about the young master, and now, finally, she started to see hope. Raelza whispered to herself, Don't give up, young Master Vincent. On the other side, the blood demon continued its attack, swinging its mana scythe straight toward him. A powerful strike accompanied by the demon's loud roar. Vincent was still standing there, rooted to the spot, showing no signs of reacting. Raelza was a little worried, hoping her young master wouldn't end it all here. The moment had come. Vincent finally spoke, giving the command. Right then, Revan's shadow flashed past the great master with incredible speed, which surprised her. But Raelza hadn't recognized him yet. She wondered, who was that? Bam! The sound of two hard objects colliding created a blinding light along with streaks of electricity. Crackle! Revan stood there, using the greatsword in his hand to block the blood demon's powerful strike. Raelza finally realized the person who had just dashed past her was Revan. Adenka Revan had arrived just in time to block the demon's deadly blow, saving Vincent. Its face was filled with rage, surrounded by lightning and the sound of whistling wind. Raelza was extremely surprised to see Revan step up to help the young master fight the blood demon. He smiled trustingly. I'm relying on you, Revan. And he grinned back. Destroy it before I collapse, okay? Vincent reached out and began to meditate. He was focusing intensely on the flow of mana within his body. Raelza saw this and panicked. Oh my god, is he crazy? Why is he meditating at a time like this? Looking at Vincent, if Revan were pushed back and the young master took even a small hit, he would die. The blood demon in front was still raging, aiming for the one who had taken a life earlier. But Revan blocked it, saying, Where are you looking? I'm the one challenging you. He gripped his greatsword tightly and tried to brace himself. Revan shoved the demon's scythe backward, making it twitch, but it immediately roared and changed its target. This time, it aimed straight at Revan to strike down. It probably thought it would destroy him before finding Vincent. He smiled. If you don't lose to Vincent, then you're my prey. Saying that, he deployed steel skin, making his body sturdy. However, the blood demon was no slouch, swinging down with a move that sounded like a huge explosion. Although he was sweating, Revan still used a provocative tone. Weaker than I thought, huh? Is that all you've got? Before he could finish, the blood demon unleashed a barrage of attacks. Revan began to worry because his sword couldn't receive the steel skin effect, so it wasn't sturdy enough and showed signs of cracking. Seeing the blood demon swinging in front of him, Revan realized it was aiming for his sword. The strike shattered the greatsword. Revan winced and cursed, Damn it! The huge silhouette of the blood demon with the scythe in its hand was about to strike down. Revan thought, without a sword in my hand, how can I protect Vincent? So he used both hands to grab the blade and block the attack, but human strength has its limits. His whole body trembled as he tried to resist. Even though his body had the steel skin effect, this was extremely difficult. Feeling like he couldn't hold on any longer, Revan called out. Vincent answered his call with that familiar voice. Well done, Revan. Along with that, a flow of mana curved through, appearing as a line of aura passing right under Revan's arm, aimed straight at the blood demon. That was the sword aura of the Blood Lotus with a skill strike from Vincent's hand, causing the blood demon to split into two pieces. Once again, the blood core appeared, and this time it probably couldn't regenerate anymore. The blood core appeared, covered in cracks, along with the sounds. The colors faded away with a snap. and as shards scattered, the blood orb shattered in front of Vincent and Revan with a loud bang. The blood demon was defeated. Revan stood nearby, laughing out loud. "Thanks, Revan," he chuckled. "Man, I actually started to feel bad for that blood demon." Raelza's voice, coming from a distance, caught his attention. "Was that your plan, young master?" She walked over and said, "Congratulations, but I'm not sure the family head will be okay with you pulling out like this. Didn't you say you wanted to exceed your father's expectations?" Vincent bowed his head and smiled. "You're too hasty. You created this mana barrier just to let one monster through for a moment." At that moment, a dim red glow appeared on the barrier, and a massive arm emerged. Since the first one was dead, this was likely the next blood demon. It would stabilize the barrier and step inside. It would continue to target Vincent. He held the magical stone in his hand, lifted it up, and declared, "Now I will prove myself." Then, Vincent raised the stone to his mouth, bit down, and swallowed it. His entire body erupted with an immense flow of mana, cloaked in a dark, death-like aura. The second blood demon lunged forward. Vincent thought to himself, "Even after leveling up, my body can only handle sword skills twice." The reason I had to meditate was to calculate the effects of the spirit stone. He remained still on the ground despite its attack, calculating his body's tolerance while lifting his sword, preparing to finish the mission. Swordsmanship skill! He unleashed a direct blast of mana sword energy from below, piercing straight through the blood demon. Vincent realized the blood demon's weak point was exposed while it was regenerating. The blood orb appeared, emitting blood-red auras to resurrect it. The blood demon was gradually reforming with a hideous face. Being used to an opponent with so many openings makes it much easier to execute sword techniques. Before the blood demon could fully form, it took a clean slash right across its mouth. Sword skill! Second strike! He unleashed a sharp, lethal blow. The blood orb shattered in two, and the blood demon perished instantly. Raelza witnessed the entire process, which happened in such a short span. The blood orb sliced in half. She couldn't help but be amazed. She closed her eyes in contemplation. "It seems I have nothing to worry about." Looking at the boy before her, she felt proud. "Excellent work, young Master Vincent." But he didn't look well. Pushing himself with such a powerful technique caused Vincent to cough up blood. Julian asked anxiously, "What kind of sword technique is that? Why is my body like this?" After using it a few times, Vincent leaned on his sword and answered with difficulty, "The meditation properties of the Spirit Stone. Without one of those things, it wouldn't be possible." Julian advised, "Lie down. If you pass out, Raelza will take care of you." Vincent replied, "Just like in the Sword Festival, Julian. The true winner is the one who can hold on until the very end." He struggled to stand firm despite being exhausted. "I will never fall." Raelza stepped up behind him, smiling, and called out, "Young Master." The barrier surrounding them slowly faded away. It seemed the test had been passed. But no, a large circle appeared above the barrier, causing it to shatter. Revan was sitting there, looking up in complete panic. Julian was also shocked, not knowing what was happening. Raelza held her sword ready, her face tense. "This is a summoning circle, but such a thing never existed in the transfer ritual." The surrounding stones began to gather in the center, and a purple-colored stone with a glowing eye appeared, staring straight at them. Raelza wore a serious expression, ready for battle. Before everyone's eyes was an ancient guardian, a giant stone snake roaring at them. Raelza deduced, "A guardian this massive never discovered until now. That means it's highly likely that it was created along with the temple." She pointed her sword at it. "I am a subordinate of the Adenka family. Raiola Baladian, state your mission to the main line of the Adenka family and show some respect." The snake ignored her words, opened its mouth, and lunged straight at them to attack. Raelza worried, "It's useless. It's no longer rational because it's too old." She shouted, "Young Master Revan, please take young Master Vincent and retreat!" Revan hurriedly helped Vincent up to move him away, while Julian was also extremely worried. The two young masters turned and walked away. Leaving the great guardian with the giant stone snake in front of her, Raelza began to unsheathe her blade. Baladian Sword Art, Part 7. A terrifying slash. Behind the two young masters, a massive pillar of light erupted, causing immense destruction. Rocks and dust flew everywhere. Revan and Julian heard the commotion and turned back, looking on in astonishment. He called out loudly, "Great Guardian!" At that moment, only the stone snake's head was seen slamming into the ground, and Raelza was nowhere to be seen. The ground trembled slightly. The snake guardian's jaw was frozen solid. Frost spread from its mouth, and in an instant its entire body was frozen, curling up like a slide. On the newly created ice wall, cracks appeared from within. With a powerful strike accompanied by a snowflake ring, Raelza emerged from inside the snake to strike it. Revan was incredibly amazed and filled with admiration at what he had just witnessed. Looking at the great guardian, Revan exclaimed, "This is the level of a 7th-tier starlight." While everyone was still enjoying the moment, Vincent used his dying breath to whisper, "Not over." He looked toward where Raelza was standing and said, "Over there." Then, he used his last bit of strength to unleash a slash directed straight behind Raelza. The sword energy grazed right over her head and struck the stone behind her. Everyone was confused and puzzled by his action. The Great Guardian was no exception. Attacking thin air? But why? Is he trying to tell me something? Only then did Raelza look carefully and notice something. It was a guardian, and it seemed that was its true form. A B shape with a red, eye-catching stone for an abdomen. Raelza was surprised. "When did it escape? The young masters are in danger." The guardian was flying toward Revan at high speed, buzzing as it flew, looking extremely dangerous. Immediately, the great guardian knelt, using the blessing trait of the wandering galaxy. It was as if Raelza had been boosted. She lunged toward the two young masters with her snow steps technique. In a flash, her figure arrived, facing the small guardian, and delivered a sword stroke that glided past Revan, slicing the guardian in two, averting the danger in the nick of time. Both of them slumped to the ground. Raelza stood by, checking on them. "Are you two all right?" The great guardian was a bit surprised. "I didn't see the guardian's true form, but the young master saw it and warned me." Vincent, bracing himself on the ground from exhaustion, said to Raelza, pointing forward. A small wooden box appeared right where the snake had shattered. Vincent thought, that must be what the guardian was protecting. The danger had passed, and the exam had concluded. The forest became quiet. Raelza slowly opened the box and looked inside. Vincent asked from afar, "What's in there?" Picking up something that looked like a fang, she replied, "This is a dragon bone. It seems to be an artifact left behind by the first family head, Aslan." Julian seemed quite happy. "A dragon bone? That's an extremely rare magical material and an invaluable treasure." Vincent smiled, seemingly realizing why Arsenal created the transfer ceremony. Rihanna knelt, holding the dragon bone out with reverence. "Young master, please accept this." She bowed her head further, adding, "Out of all the Adenka who have come here, you are the one who found it, so it belongs entirely to you." Vincent hesitated, sitting. Raelza reacted, adding, "That is my concern," implying it was her duty to the family if she were to be reprimanded. At this, he stood up, drew his blood lotus blade, and said, "Then let's do it like this." With that, he struck, splitting the dragon bone in two. Holding a piece in his hand, he smiled and said, "Now, we are accomplices." Vincent handed one piece of the dragon bone to Raelza. "We wouldn't have been able to get it without you, so take it." She smiled and bowed in gratitude. Somewhere else, a sword was plunged into the ground, surrounded by withered, leafless trees. This was the burial ground for the heads of the Adenka family. Known as the Sword Grave, Family Head Khan stood there, gazing at the ancestral blades. Raelza bowed to report, "Family Head, I have returned following young Master Vincent," completing the transfer ceremony. He wondered, shouldn't this be reported to the church? Raelza replied, "What I saw was far more astonishing, which is why I came to find you." He looked grave. "I am very eager to hear it." The high priestess began to recount, "Do you remember Devon Adenka, who was so hostile? He was influenced by the young master and even risked his life to block an attack from a blood demon. Furthermore, young Master Vincent subdued it successfully." The family head closed his eyes, appearing disappointed. "Does that not mean the boy couldn't do it alone and had to resort to tricks? But then, he defeated the blood demon single-handedly." Raelza's words seemed to wake Khan up. The high priestess added, "And he found the dragon bone that the first family head, Aslan, left behind. This is the half the young master shared with me." The family head questioned, "Shared? Vincent did this himself?" Raelza answered honestly, Yes, the young master cut it himself with his sword. The family head ordered, "There is one thing left to do." Relza looked slightly confused. I demanded she shatter that piece of dragon bone. It was an order from the family head to break it immediately. This left her worried and puzzled, but she obeyed. Relza swung with all her might at the dragon bone. Both the family head and the high priestess watched the dragon bone's reaction intently. Relza raised her sword and bowed. "Ancestors of Adenka, please forgive this insolence." She struck with all her might using the east wind slash. The result was that the dragon bone was completely frozen, but when the outer layer of ice shattered, the piece inside remained almost without a scratch. "What?" She was incredibly surprised. "How is that possible?" "I tried my best." The family head turned away, saying, "You would have to be a high-level blacksmith to be able to shatter dragon bone." Khan's eyes grew sharp. He silently called to his father in his mind, and looked at the graves below, thinking, "It seems it's almost my turn." He commanded Relza, "It seems Vincent possesses special power. Take care of him, my son." He then put his hands in his pockets, standing before the grave of his grandfather, full of pride for his son. The scene opened with Wilson crying, 2 lines of tears streaming down, calling out, "Young master." Sherry saw this and immediately turned to complain, "Wilson, the young master needs to rest after that battle. Quiet down." Suddenly he rushed over to ask, "Young master, do I really have to go to the Blood City?" Sherry poured more tea for the young master and said, "Of course. You wouldn't let him go alone, would you?" Wilson was worried. "But Sherry, the Blood City is crawling with terrifying monsters and martial artists." The maid shrugged. "So you're afraid of monsters, Wilson?" Vincent watched his 2 servants arguing, feeling a bit weary. He turned and said, "Julian, haven't you seen it?" It turned out he was focused on watching Sherry. The mana flow from Sherry's body was quite clear, but Julian was surprised by it. "Mana? I can't feel it, even though I've lived with Sherry longer than you. If that were true, I should have known, right?" Vincent affirmed. "I have seen a similar mana flow 500 years ago." He turned to ask the maid, "Sherry, what is your surname?" Hearing the young master's question, she was a bit flustered. "I come from the 7th-generation Heisley family, sir." This firmly confirmed Vincent's suspicion. "I knew it!" Sherry possessed a magical body. Julian was astonished. "Heisley and a magical body? This is the first I've heard of it." Vincent explained. "The Heisley family researches the body and mana. Moreover, they were one of the ones who found the holy bone. Those in the Heisley family have a trait called a magical body, similar to the holy bone. It allows them to absorb mana and use it skillfully." Julian wondered, "So that means—" Vincent nodded. "If a body is full of mana, it can stop the holy bone from slowly dying." He stood up and asked Sherry, "Do you know anything about the Heisley family, such as your ancestors?" The girl looked a bit sad. Wilson seemed unhappy. "Young master, do you know why Sherry is here?" The maid sadly recounted, "My grandmother passed away a long time ago. She was the only Heisley I knew." Vincent sat down and sighed, apologizing to Sherry. She waved her hand and said, "It is fine, sir. You have been through much more, from the sword conference to the transfer ceremony." Julian was deep in thought. Why would a family with such skills be wiped out? Vincent speculated. Perhaps something similar happened as with the Samuel family. Julian agreed. That makes sense, if they were trying to hide the existence of the holy bone. Vincent believed the Heisley family was killed to silence them. Sherry suddenly remembered something. Wait, there was one other person. She passed away quite recently. But the young master's mother, Princess Sarvana, was also a Heisley. Hearing this, Julian was startled. The boy insisted, I have never heard of this." "Wait, there's someone else. She passed away just recently." "But the young master's mother, Princess Sarvana, was a Heisley too," she explained. Julian was taken aback. The boy insisted, I've never heard of that." Vincent repeated those same words. Siri added, "It's probably because no one is allowed to mention Princess Sarvana anymore. The master always feels so sad whenever he hears her name." The scene shifts to the master's mansion, where Khan Adenka stands in his room, lost in deep thought, his gaze fixed on the distance. It's impossible to tell what he's thinking right now. Back in Vincent's room, Siri continues, the princess hired everyone without any discrimination, even those from fallen families. Wilson chimes in, "We are all here today because of her." "Sarvana, exactly," Siri says, "especially the high priestess. She was once at the very bottom of society until the princess personally brought her into the Adenka family. Julian smiles. Mother really was a wonderful person. Vincent frowns. Right, and that also means Raiola looks after us, and that's all thanks to Mother. A knock comes at the door, and the high priestess stands outside asking, Young Master, are you in there? She has come to announce that young Master Raven is leaving. Raven stands there with his massive greatsword strapped to his back, arms crossed, looking toward the mansion. Vincent approaches and asks, You're leaving? Raven nods. I've finally taken down the blood demon and I can't stay here forever. Vincent speaks up. I still have one more thing I need your help with. Raven smiles. Sure, go ahead. Vincent says, I want you to dig into the history of the Heisley family from 500 years ago. It seems like someone really wanted to cover this up. Raven grins. You mean like that whole business with the essential oils and the watermill? Vincent nods. Exactly, something just like that. Raven replies, All right, leave it to me. They shake hands and Vincent laughs. See you later, Raven. Raven replies happily. I'm going to get even stronger. I don't want to embarrass you either. And with that, he leaves, not forgetting to wave goodbye to everyone. Vincent says to Raelza, the high priestess, I've been told about my mother. It seems your kindness toward me was just you repaying a debt. A debt of gratitude, you mean? She nods. Yes, exactly. He turns to face her directly and says, I have a request, and I'm asking as Vincent Adenka, not as the son of Sarvana Adenka. This makes Raelza wonder, what is it? His face is deadly serious now. Train me until I reach the Blood City, Vincent adds. I'm not asking this because I'm my mother's son, but as a martial artist. The high priestess wonders to herself, Princess Sarvana, will my loyalty to you transfer to young Master Vincent from now on? Remembering the princess's radiant expression, she thinks, I'll never be able to hear an answer from you. Forgive my weak decision. She breaks into a smile, her eyes sharp. I won't go easy on you, young master. Vincent is just as thrilled. He was hoping for exactly this. I'm counting on you, Raelza. The next day at Vincent's mansion, it's a beautiful day. The two stand facing each other in the training courtyard. Raelza begins, You can learn attributes without an artifact, but that requires you to have a mana attribute circle. Vincent nods. All right, understood. She grabs a sword from the rack and continues, Very well, but since you've asked me as a martial artist, I won't just be explaining things to you. Vincent looks at the sword, puzzled. You aren't going to use the sword from the transfer ritual? Raelza closes her eyes. Heh, that sword. You'll meet it when the time is right. She begins to channel mana. You have only 5 months until you reach the Blood City, and if you can wound me even once, I will show you that attribute. Her eyes light up as she smiles. Try to strike me with that bizarre swordsmanship of yours. Suddenly, Vincent gets nervous. Wait a second, haven't you seen Raven? A permanent injury would be a total disaster. Before he can finish, Raelza has already closed the distance, her sword tip right in front of him. Do I look like young Master Raven to you? The sword tip is just inches from his eyes. This attribute, Vincent strikes, aiming a slash at Raelza, but she simply leaps into the air to dodge it. Raelza remarks, I know that sword move quite well myself. That's why I'm planning to make sure you never get the chance to use it. Vincent thinks anxiously. Did she just aim straight for my eyes? That was way too dangerous. Raelza lands gracefully. I heard you're friends with the 4 Donban. We'll call on them when the time is right. Vincent begins to feel the ruthlessness of the high priestess as she smiles. I told you, didn't I? I'm not going to go easy on you. A week later, on a cool, clear night with the moon bright above the training ground, those two people are still clashing, with no sign of resting. Vincent's determination is clear on his face, though he's clearly struggling, while Raelza maintains her graceful, superior demeanor, suddenly appearing behind him. You've been preparing for a long time and... boom! The entire training ground seems to shatter from the sheer force of Raelza's massive blow. She says, Use your attack techniques more, or you'll burn yourself out. Let's stop here for now. Vincent lies there, trying to catch his breath. That was way too harsh. She sheathes her sword. You'll improve soon enough. I'll call Siri and Wilson. Looking at the chipped sword in her hand, Raelza thinks, this sword is about to break too. I've lost count of how many swords I've had to replace these last few days. I really have to tell the blacksmith about this. Over at the forge, a man who looks short but muscular, holding a massive hammer, is swinging away, forging iron. Raelza stands at the door and complains, It seems like Your title as a master is the only thing you've lost since we last met. She adds, it would be a tragedy if you were to forge for the family. Adenka has nothing but trash swords like these. Hansen's blacksmith pride was clearly wounded. He pushed his sleeves up, took off his glasses, and glared toward the door. Hansen took off his glasses, glanced out the door, and asked, Who's there? Are you that stalker, Sarvana? What business do you have coming here to bother me in the middle of the night? Rhea leaned forward, placed a bag down, and said, Take a look at this. She dumped out a pile of broken, chipped, and mangled sword blades. My liege, these are the blades I've used over the past week. And I only use them for dueling, too. I simply cannot allow you to keep providing me with such flimsy blades. Hansen inspected the damage meticulously, sensing something strange. He asked, Did you fight a monster with razor-sharp teeth? The old blacksmith started listing off possibilities. How about a 9-star martial artist? Or perhaps a mage with more than 7 magic circles? But each time, Rhea shook her head. Do you think I'm looking for a death wish? Your blades collided with a greatsword. The response from the high guard remained the same. No, that wasn't it either. She added, I don't know if you'd consider it a greatsword, but I dueled against the blood lotus belonging to the young master, Vincent. Upon hearing the name, the blacksmith Hansen was stunned. What? Vincent? That ugly 7th young master? How on earth does he have the blood lotus? A short while later, a meeting took place in front of the mansion. Rhea had brought the blacksmith along. Vincent stepped out, confused. At this hour? What could be so urgent, High Guard? She bowed respectfully. I apologize for the late hour, my lord, but I had to bring him. He had insisted on seeing the blood lotus. Hansen, now dressed in a sharp outfit, stood with his arms crossed and said, Is there any reason I shouldn't be allowed to see it? I'm the one who forged it after all. Vincent was surprised. You're the one who created the blood lotus? Julian, now wide awake, chimed in. So this dwarf is the blacksmith Hansen? Hansen kept a confident smirk on his face. I am a dwarf indeed. If I wanted to, I could even summon the Khan himself. Julian explained to Vincent, he is a legendary blacksmith, a longtime friend of your father, and a former master associated with the Adenka family. Vincent wondered aloud. Former? Does that mean he's no longer a master? 10 decades ago, he stopped crafting greatswords to focus on high-quality innovations. He was looked down upon by other smiths for being too obsessed with money and results. He lost his honor and his status within the Adenka family. Vincent smiled. That's actually amazing. This left Julian confused as to why. Many people were able to protect themselves thanks to this man. He prioritized others over his own reputation. Vincent placed his hand on his chest and bowed respectfully. I am the 7th young master of Adenka, Vincent. It is a true honor to meet you, Master Hansen. Hansen looked at him with a slight smirk. Master, huh? Then he let out a booming laugh. Look at this kid. He sure knows how to play the crowd. Fine. I apologize for bothering you so late at night, young master. Are you satisfied now? Vincent maintained his composure. I wasn't mocking you, sir. You chose the right path. Vincent's words made Hansen quiet down. The smile vanished, and it was a moment for him to remember the past, back when he was young and his beard wasn't as long as it is now. Someone had once told him the exact same thing. The path you chose is the right one, Hansen. That person was none other than the family head, Khan Adenka. While they were sitting in a tavern, Khan had said, Your wishes will be ridiculed by many. He lifted his beer mug, smiled at Hansen, and continued, Even so, I believe your decision is correct. Back in the present, Hansen's gaze toward the young man became intense. He watched Vincent's demeanor so closely that he felt he caught a glimpse of Khan's shadow within him. It seems the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, Hansen remarked. I thought you were just ugly Vincent, but that must have been a fabrication. Vincent just smiled. I'll take that as a compliment. Hansen told him, Show me the blood lotus. I need to check its condition. Vincent didn't hesitate to hand over his sword. Hansen drew the blade and studied it for a long time. It was still sharp and gleaming. Handing it back, Hansen asked, You used this to defeat the blood demon and duel the stalker, Sarvana? Vincent nodded. Yes. His confident confirmation left even a veteran like Hansen feeling surprised. He looked at Vincent's confident posture. He thought to himself, How is the blade not damaged at all? It's as if he didn't even use the blade, but cut through with his own sheer power. Hansen asked seriously, What kind of swordsmanship are you using? I have to see it. He frowned slightly as he looked at Vincent. Why are you hesitating? You really intend to just walk around with the blood lotus and say, I'm too tired today just to get out of this? Julian stepped in to stop him. Vincent, you can't. You've already used both sword styles today. I knew this. But it wasn't every day that one meets a master. If I miss this chance... While he was lost in thought, Ciri suddenly appeared behind him. She called out in a dangerously cold tone, Master Hansen! Which made him jump. The maid stood with her hands on her hips and spoke loudly. What is the meaning of this? It's past bedtime and you're still causing a commotion? Hansen stammered, looking like a flustered child. Ciri, I was just... Vincent, seeing this, asked Rhea, do the two of them know each other? She replied, Hansen has donated to orphans living in poverty and... Ciri was one of them. The two of them are basically like father and daughter. Ciri didn't stop her questioning and scolding of Hansen. The maid turned away and pouted. Whatever, I'm going to be mad at you. How do you think I feel when you show up and interfere with other people's work? Hansen hurriedly gave in. Fine, fine, will tomorrow work? Are you happy now? Vincent stepped forward, placed a hand on his shoulder and said, I'll head to the forge with Ciri tomorrow. Hansen was overjoyed. Really? As he left, he didn't forget to call back, You'd better bring Ciri with you, promise me. Julian sighed, thinking the old man was just a daughter-obsessed fool. Looking at the girl in front of him, Vincent finally understood where Ciri got her warm heart from. The next morning at Hansen's forge, Vincent arrived as promised. Mana flowed around him as he swung his sword, creating a shape, a purple cross aimed straight ahead. Hansen and Ciri stood by, witnessing the power of that slash. Hansen thought to himself, what a strange technique. It feels like the ones described in legends about the brave king and the great demon lord. Hansen smiled. Not bad. Now I see why they gave you the blood lotus. Vincent asked, Is that enough for you, sir? Hansen winked. All right, that works. You've actually piqued my interest. Almost enough to make you a sword. Vincent was stunned. A sword? For me? The old man scratched his head. But it's still missing one thing. Vincent quickly asked, What is it? Hansen sighed. I've had an idea for a masterpiece for a long time, but it requires a rare material. As he sheathed his sword, Vincent offered, I'll buy it for you. Hansen looked at him. No. It's so precious that money can't buy it no matter how much you have. It's the horn of a mattern. Both Vincent and Julian's eyes widened. They were talking about Dragonbone. The two looked at each other. It was truly a fated encounter, as if it had all been orchestrated from the start. Vincent pulled out the piece of Dragonbone, half of the horn, and held it out to Hansen, asking, Can you forge a sword with this, sir? Seeing what was in front of him, the smith couldn't believe his eyes. He shouted in shock, A mattern horn? Vincent raised a finger to his lips. Shh! Only my father and Raelza know about this. Hansen looked at him. Destiny must have arranged for us to meet. All right, I'll forge it for you. Vincent held up the blood lotus and asked, Could you add the horn into the blood lotus instead of making an entirely new blade? Hansen was surprised. Why, you should just get a brand new sword. Holding out the sword, Vincent said, This blade represents the beginning of my father's career, and the blood lotus itself is already excellent. I've grown quite attached to it. Hansen took the sword and smiled. You always know the right things to say. All right, come back in 3 weeks. I'll integrate the horn into the blood lotus. 3 weeks later, Vincent and Ciri returned to the forge as promised, but flames were erupting from within. Ciri asked anxiously, Young master, what's going on? Before them, the forge was engulfed in flames, the fire licking at the rafters. Vincent looked on, worried. The smithy was truly burning down. The fire covered almost everything, and its heat lit up the entire area. Ciri stared at the fire in distress. What about Master Hansen? Vincent calmed her. Stay calm, Ciri. He thought to himself, seeing Ciri this shocked meant something even more serious was happening inside. Something must have gone terribly wrong in the forge. Vincent decided, We have to save Master Hansen. Julian questioned, What are you doing? Don't tell me you're planning to run into that fire. Watching the flames rise incessantly, Vincent told the boy, My sword can cut through anything. I'll slash through the door and the fire, then dash inside. Without delay, he gathered his mana and prepared to strike. Julian warned, You're being too reckless. There was no time left. Vincent unleashed a powerful strike toward the forge door. The mana flowed in a zigzag pattern from the outside in. Vincent followed his own path in, his signature cross-shaped sword technique clearing the way. He finally made it inside. Julian pointed to the right. Over there, master. Hansen was slumped over, motionless, surrounded by fire. Vincent hurried over. Stay calm, Master Hansen, Julian added sadly. We're too late. He's completely unconscious. Just as he didn't know what to do, something caught Julian's eye. The boy asked, Vincent, look, is that the blood lotus? In the middle of the room, the sword was glowing, radiating immense energy. Julian sensed it. It feels like mana is surging through here. Vincent confirmed. The dragon bone is definitely stronger than what Hansen anticipated, but the most important thing right now is to get Master Hansen out first. The boy hoisted the smith onto his shoulders and began to walk through the scattered embers, but suddenly stopped, sensing difficulty. Vincent winced. What do we do? The exit is blocked. If we don't do something, we're going to be swallowed by these flames. What now? Julian zipped around, trying to think of a solution. The boy asked, Oh, right. Do you know any defensive techniques? Looking at the blood lotus, Julian added. I know it's dragon bone, but it won't hold back this fire for long. Vincent replied. You mean we should just stand here and wait? He added, I have this. A sword art designed solely for defense. Julian replied, Great, use it to defend us. Vincent closed his eyes, thinking to himself, Remember, I am Vincent Adenka, also known as Raven Samuel. Samuel Sword Art, Chapter 1. Vincent raised his sword to eye level. As Vincent tapped into his mana, memories of Raven flooded his mind, and he unleashed the Gento Steel Breaker, a technique that wove a thin, protective veil of mana around his body. His blade movements were so precise they seemed to slice through the very flames, defying the metal-melting heat. The strength of that barrier depended entirely on Vincent's unwavering focus. Swinging his sword slowly from above, he felt the incoming wave of fire. With a single horizontal strike, the Serenity Sword style, he cut right through the inferno, revealing the first form of the Gale Breaker. Julian watched, absolutely terrified. Good heavens, the kid was using the legendary Samuel Sword style. He couldn't help but wonder, who exactly is this old man? Moments later, the flames died out, leaving only trails of black smoke. Vincent collapsed, gasping for air, drenched in sweat from burning through so much mana, leaning heavily on his sword to stay upright. With Hansen the blacksmith lying nearby, Julian sighed. We actually survived that, didn't we? Hansen started coughing violently, likely from all the smoke, but finally came to. Vincent stepped forward with a faint smile and asked, Master Hansen, are you all right? The old man stared at him, bewildered. How on earth do you know the Samuel style? Vincent just offered a wry grin. If you're talking nonsense like that, I guess you're doing just fine. He thought to himself, if the master recognized it, I guess I'm not doing too bad after all. Hansen stroked his beard. That's impossible. That shouldn't exist. I must have been dreaming, he muttered, then added, the sword, it's finally finished. The blood lotus hovered above the forge, looking razor-sharp. Hansen, still sitting on the floor, added, I've never tempered dragon bone before. How could I have known it would overflow with mana and spew fire like that? Vincent slowly approached the blade. He reached out with both hands and carefully gripped the hilt. A golden aura shimmered around him as he drew the weapon, and it blazed with the brilliance of the morning sun. He felt the sword resonating with his very soul. Etched onto the blade was a seal identical to the mana circle he received from the Dwarven King's blessing. Hansen asked, Why are you looking so blank? Do you not like it? Vincent smiled. Not at all. This sword is beyond incredible. Julian felt something was off, which made Vincent tilt his head. What is it, Julian? The boy replied, If this sword was meant to be inherited by the Aslan clan head, shouldn't he have known the dragon bone would react like this? If I were Aslan, I would have at least given some kind of warning. Maybe there's a reason he kept it a secret. During training for the next dragon bone encounter, Vincent smiled and asked, Hansen, could you forge me a new sword? He replied, Already looking for a new one? You clearly didn't like that one then. Vincent gently countered. Since you already made such a masterpiece, I'm certain the next one will be even more legendary. Hansen remained seated and grumbled, That's going to take a lot of time, and I still have this whole mess to clean up. Hansen wondered aloud, But I can't possibly fight a dragon bone, so what's the point? You think we can actually survive the next round? Vincent remained calm, while Julian snickered as another piece of dragon bone appeared before Hansen. It was none other than Ryelza. She handed it over and said, I heard you needed dragon bone, so I brought you some. Just like last time, Hansen was floored. His reaction was the same as before, mouth agape, eyes wide, shouting, Another dragon bone sword? The high priestess, like Vincent, put a finger to her lips, signaling him to keep quiet. Only the boss was supposed to know about this. Hansen quickly covered his mouth with both hands, casting a glance at Raelza. Forging another dragon bone sword? Surely Sarvana's subordinate must be royalty? She replied, This isn't for a subordinate. This blade is meant solely for the young master. Taking the dragon bone in his hands, Hansen sighed. You really know how to twist my arm. Fine. I don't know how long it will take, but I will forge the most perfect dragon bone sword possible. Raelza walked back to the mansion with a storm of thoughts in her head. I had given up halfway, but seeing how much he's grown, it's truly astonishing. Lost in her thoughts, a voice from behind startled her. Pardon me, Raelza. It was Vincent. He said, I was planning to share this with you, but it looks like I've already reclaimed it. How can I ever repay you? She stepped forward and answered, There is no need, my lord. As for repaying the debt of the dragon bone sword, you already did that 14 years ago. Raelza bowed. Your birth alone was proof of your greatness. There is no reward in this world that could exceed the honor of watching you become such a warrior. Vincent slowly drew the blood lotus and said, Then this will surely make you even happier, Raelza. Looking at the seal on the sword, Vincent remembered what he had realized while fighting the blood demon, a way to defeat a 7-star warrior. He raised his sword and offered a confident smile. Today I will defeat you and master your techniques. Raelza slowly drew her own blade in response. I have told you time and time again, I will not go easy on you. In the center of the training ground, a flash of white light cut through the air, followed by a surge of icy killing intent and the sound of wind being shredded. Vincent crossed his arms, desperately trying to defend himself, but it was a struggle. His body felt the biting cold of the air, and he heard Raelza's voice. Not good enough. She lunged forward with her sword, leaping from the air to strike him down, accompanied by her steely demeanor and a taunt. You said you'd defeat me? Looking at you now, you haven't got a chance. As for repaying the debt for the dragon bone sword, you already did that 14 years ago, my lord, Raelza said, bowing her head. You were born, and you've proven your brilliance. You have proven your excellence as a warrior. There is no reward greater than that. Vincent slowly drew the blood lotus and replied, Then you'll be even happier, Raelza. Staring at the seal on the blade, Vincent thought to himself. I've been thinking about this. While fighting the blood demon, a way to take down a 7-star warrior. He held his sword forward, flashed a confident grin, and declared, Today, I'm going to beat you and master your techniques. Raelza slowly drew her own blade and replied, I've told you. Time and time again. I'm not going to go easy on you. In the middle of the training ground, a flash of white light cut through the air. A powerful icy aura surged forward, accompanied by the sharp sound of steel slicing through the wind. Vincent crossed his arms in front of his chest, struggling to hold his ground. He could feel the freezing chill in the air, followed by Raelza's voice. Not good enough. She lunged forward with her sword, leaping down from midair. Her expression was deathly serious as she taunted him. You said you'd beat me? Looking at you now, you don't stand a chance. She thrust her sword downward with tremendous force, but Vincent raised the blood lotus, straining to parry the brutal strike that left his feet sunken into the ground. A deafening blast erupted in the training courtyard. Debris and light exploded outward. Raelza's blade collided with the blood lotus, yet the sword didn't budge an inch. Vincent gritted his teeth, his face showing the strain of the defense. Raelza was quite surprised, thinking, He blocked that? I used enough mana for a 4-star strike. Yet neither my sword nor the young master's has even a scratch. For this level of mana consumption, a normal blade should have shattered by now. While defending, Vincent channeled a jagged flow of mana toward Raelza. As she was momentarily distracted, he swung his blade upward in a counter-strike to attack and deflect her at the same time. It forced Raelza to leap back to dodge. She thought, this is completely different from the way he usually fights. What kind of power is inside that Blood Lotus young master? This sword cannot be destroyed. Thanks to the power of the pseudo-viceroy, it absorbs all external forces, a blade that carries all the traits of its master. The new power of the Blood Lotus. Raelza landed and spoke. The Blood Lotus has been enhanced, Vincent nodded. That's right, Master Hansen has been working very hard. Hearing this, she smiled, and her figure dissolved into a cold mist. Then I shall go even harder. Vincent was startled, realizing she had vanished, and he focused his senses. He seemed to detect Ryelza's presence behind him. She was moving at incredible speed, circling him and creating a freezing aura. Vincent immediately closed his eyes. He couldn't let her speed deceive him. He just had to sense the mana she used for her movement. He felt he had pinpointed Ryelza's position. He swung his sword and shouted, "Found you!" But no, that wasn't it. She appeared behind him with her sword raised, ready to strike. "You're wrong." One would expect him to be worried, but Vincent just laughed and said, "Yes, of course I was wrong." As he finished speaking, he caught Ryelza's sword with his bare hand. "And you were aiming for my back." As he finished, an arc of mana flowed from the blade, grazing Ryelza's throat. She was shocked, thinking, with bare hands, how could he have predicted my movement? Within the blink of an eye, Vincent's eyes blazed. He gripped the Blood Lotus and used the Phantom Dual Sword technique to attack. First movement, Beauty King. An upward slash with terrifying force was being unleashed by Vincent. I had just disarmed Ryelza with his bare hand and used the Blood Lotus in his other hand to deliver the finishing blow with strangely masterful technique. That strike created a massive explosion. Ryelza landed inside the circle created by the move. He used both techniques, but that follow-up was truly unexpected. The two stood facing each other in the circle, the High Priestess thinking, "I've had my sword taken away." Vincent tossed the sword in front of her and said, "Pick up your weapon." Still looking confident, he added, "I don't want to win cheaply by striking someone who is unarmed." His words left Ryelza speechless. Would the pride of a 7th-degree martial artist offend her? No translation needed for filler, continuing. She picked up her sword and said, "That's quite arrogant, young master. Not every swordsman or monster will go easy on you like I do. Enemies stronger than you won't show mercy or care about your situation." With that, a surge of mana and a mark appeared on her back. The cold, icy aura of the mana mark brought a freezing chill, and ice started forming under her feet. Ryelza had become serious. "You must remember that, young master." Vincent smiled. "Winter is coming. All right, I understand." That brilliant aura. Ryelza lunged forward, her eyes flashing with cold intent. "Be careful with this move!" She kicked off the ice beneath her feet to gain momentum and surged toward Vincent. Ryelza's speed was extreme, but something was happening that left her stunned. Ryelza's eyes widened, frozen by what was unfolding. While she was rushing forward, Vincent grabbed her shoulder and prepared to strike with his knee, finishing with a flick to the center of her forehead. The High Priestess smiled. "You've been hit by me. Only 4 months left until we go to the Blood Citadel." Ryelza sat down on the ground, disbelieving. "How is that possible?" Vincent added, "Even when using the dual sword technique, I couldn't cut you, but I could cut through the flow of mana around you. Resonating with the power of the pseudo-viceroy makes it possible." Ryelza was slightly confused. "He cut through the mana flow to stop my technique? You can actually do that?" She looked at Vincent and said, "You always perform better than I expect." He hadn't forgotten the reward the High Priestess promised at the start. Ryelza stood up and said, "All right, I will tell you." She smiled. "The blessing I was granted is the flow of mana from the Galactic Wanderer." And so, Vincent began training with the cloud-patterned mana flow. He sat there, channeling mana under the watchful guidance of Ryelza standing by his side. She was extremely surprised. "He can comprehend this in just 2 days?" She guided him to let the mana flow through his meridians and start refining it. Vincent remained completely focused, following everything, Ryelza said. His shape and the mana flow had changed. Julienne worriedly thought, "I hope he doesn't punch a hole through the ceiling." A blue light, like the entire galaxy, appeared, catching the boy's attention. A girl with an ethereal form emerged, with long ice-blue hair, radiating a galactic aura all around her. Sometime later, at the Blood Citadel, a fortress built atop a high mountain, with a vast forest below. Snow had fallen. Winter had arrived. Inside a room, a man looked at the girl in front of him and said, "Why haven't you looked through these documents yet? You're daydreaming again." The girl replied, "But I'm a swordsman. It's such a waste that I have to keep holding a pen." That man was the Blood Citadel's Minister of War, Vago Pagoda. He added, "Please stop talking nonsense. Check the list of people entering the Citadel next." The red-haired girl was unexpectedly the master of the Blood Citadel, Herka Keben. She held the paper in her hand and sighed, "I'm doing it right now." She was startled to see the name Vincent Adenka on the paper. "Isn't that someone from the main family?" Vago replied, "That's right. He is the seventh son of the main branch." She sighed. Another troublesome person coming here. Vago stood by, silently thinking, that failed seventh son, if he is as useless as the rumors say. Vago replied, "That's right. He's the seventh son of the main branch." She sighed. Great. Another troublemaker is coming. Vago stood by, thinking to himself, that seventh son, if he's as much of a failure and as useless as they say. "If rumors spread, it'll tarnish the reputation of the Blood Citadel," he said, lost in thought before he could even register. "We'll deal with him first." A figure like a snow maiden blew a breath that felt like a stream of mana. Vincent just unleashed a gust of cold air toward you, biting like a blizzard wind. Julian panicked, shouting, "What was that?" A voice echoed from behind, "The Wanderer's blessing. We are only one step away." The wind spun, forming a cyclone. Julian could only yell, "It's freezing!" A moment later, the wind vanished, and the girl disappeared too. Riasa said, "Not a single trace left, even while walking on the cold white snow. It's called Ice Walk." A mana sigil appeared in Vincent's hand, inside a large circle. At the top and bottom were waves, and in the center, a cloud shape. Julian said to Vincent, "The Blood Citadel isn't a training ground, it's more like a fortress." The kid pointed at the map. "It's right here, deep in the mountain ranges, near the old Samir border. Back then, when cultists and countless archdemons invaded Samir, Aslan and many warriors of that era drove them back. Ever since, they have carried the mission to maintain and protect this Blood Citadel." Vincent smiled. "Then we'll definitely find Aslan's scroll here, maybe even a dragon bone too." Julian cut him off. "There won't be another dragon bone, but there is a legend about a different treasure." He turned to ask, "What treasure?" The kid replied, "It's the heaven fruit. They say it can cure any illness, or even bring back the dead." Julian added, "There are so many heaven fruits. Lots of loafers just wait around the Blood Citadel, sitting under the tree, waiting for them to fall." The kid sighed. The me from back then would never believe such things. "But looking at the current situation," Julian asked, "Vincent, the next target is the heaven fruit, right? To heal the holy bone that was slowly crumbling, they needed the heaven fruit." The kid was sad. "Once I register, I'll only have 9 years left." Vincent brushed it off. "No way! We have too much to do. Our time is even shorter than that." Julian clenched his fists, smiling with determination. "Fine then. We'll uncover the secret of the heaven fruit and take it for ourselves." Vincent opened a book and called Julian over. He pointed inside, saying, "It says here we have to fend for ourselves. We can't use the family's money at the Blood Citadel," the kid explained, "to avoid mindless spending and to maintain the expenses of this massive family." Vincent wondered, "Then where are we supposed to get money?" Julian punched his own chest, replying, "Don't worry, I've invested in the 6 citadels." He turned, looking confused. "Citadels?" Julian explained. "The Adenka and Samian families are famous for their swordsmanship, while the 6 citadels are the great nurseries training the most elite mages. We will invest in the 6 citadels' research projects and get corresponding dividends." A girl in a purple outfit with a familiar mage's hat appeared. She was Vanelli Pagola. But the investment money would be lost if this co-owner died. Alongside Julian's explanation, Vanelli was busy taking notes when someone knocked on the door. She called out, "Come in." She was still buried in her work, not paying attention. "Didn't I tell you everything already?" "I don't want to work with—" A shadow behind her slowly drew a sword. A flash of steel, and blood spilled. Even Julian didn't understand why a co-owner of the 6 citadels was assassinated so easily. Vanelli fell, her eyes never closing, blood spreading across the floor along with the mysterious assassin. It turned out, the news announced Vanelli's death, citing the cause as an explosion during research. Someone must have had a hand in this. Julian saw this and grew anxious, shaking all over. "How can this be?" The kid held his head. "Oh God, my money!" Vincent saw this and complained, "Show some respect for the dead, will you?" Julian cried, "You think I'm in the mood to think about that right now? We're going to starve to death in that Blood Citadel." The announcement stated that they found her will, and she left all her assets to her younger brother. Believably, her brother was the Vice Lord of the Blood Citadel, Vagan Pagola. He stood on the Citadel wall thinking, "I know we are both Pagolas, but I never had a genius brain like hers. Am I the disgrace of the family? Why?" Vagan stood there, looking toward the distant snowy mountains. On the other side, Julian and Vincent agreed to investigate this Vagan character first. Vincent had been thinking hard. After all, there were only 4 short months left until they had to be there. He thought to himself, I have to gather as much information as possible to prepare well for this event. 4 months later, on the rocky peaks of the Blood Citadel, rows of snow-capped mountains stretched out, with the forest covered in white snow below, creating a majestic scene. On the carriage, Raelsa said, For security reasons, we'll walk from here. He said happily, Okay, I understand. The High Priestess pointed toward the citadel ahead. Just follow this path. The Lord of the Blood Citadel will receive you. Vincent stood before Raelsa and said, I don't know how to thank you enough. Thank you for everything. She bowed slightly and smiled. It's nothing at all. I think my mother would have wanted that too. His words made Raelsa pause for a moment. She thought to herself, If you've matured, then I am happy. Afterward, she bowed and said, Please take care of yourself. The carriage turned back toward the manor, leaving the 3 of them and their gear to walk toward the Blood Citadel. Footprints and carriage tracks were imprinted on the snow. Vagan arrived to report, Lord, young Master Vincent will be here soon. Hoka sprawled on the table, looking bored. How annoying. I'm not used to formal appearances and welcoming guests. While Vagan was saying that was her job, a voice came through the communication stone on the table. Word came from the other side that monsters have been invading the nearby settlements, and hearing that, she immediately stood up and declared that as a city lord, I have a responsibility to protect our people. Even though Vagan insisted the monsters were quite weak, she vaulted out the window and called back to him. I leave the young lord, Vincent, to you, Vagan. With that, she leaped down from the room with a beaming smile, ignoring the panicked shouts of the deputy city lord behind her. A soldier behind asked, What about young Lord Vincent, sir? And the captain grumbled, I'll go welcome him in the lord's place myself. A moment later, Vagan appeared on the city wall, landing lightly. The 2 guards turned, recognized him, and immediately placed their hands over their hearts, bowing in respect. Glory to you, sir, he replied with respect. Where is the young lord? The guard handed Vagan his binoculars and pointed, Over there, sir. He raised the binoculars to scan the forest and saw the archdeity Ryola standing there, smiling brightly at the young lord. Hearing that name, the guards seemed to recognize her. Yes, that's Ryola, the galactic wanderer. He frowned, thinking, I heard young Lord Vincent was useless, but is he really so pathetic that he needs someone that powerful to guide him? The guard on the right asked, What about the examination, sir? Should we make it easier? He replied, No, keep it the same as last year. I'll test him myself. Vagan channeled his mana, forming 2 glowing rings around his hands. After all, I need to pull out the weeds by the root before he can even register. He summoned a magical mana circle in his palm and shouted, The first trial, subjugating the void beasts, begins now. Meanwhile, in the forest, the trio struggled up a steep, snow-covered path, heading toward Blood Castle, surrounded by dense woods and towering cliffs. Wilson spotted something and called out, Hey Siri, look! Isn't that Blood Castle? Before them stood a massive fortress, painted in white and red, built atop a sheer, towering cliff, looking incredibly imposing. Suddenly, from within the castle, a blinding flash of light appeared, catching their attention. The 3 of them were puzzled and curious when a roar echoed from the nearby forest. The 3 froze, scanning their surroundings in alert. The sound of heavy paws crunching on the snow grew louder. Vincent smiled. Oh, so the test has already begun, has it? He slowly drew his blood blade, thinking, It's finally time to test the results of my training with Ryola over these past few months. He rested the blade on his shoulder, radiating an intense aura, and challenged the void. I am truly delighted by your warm welcome, Blood Castle. From the shadows of the forest ahead, eyes as bright and white as the snow emerged, moving toward Vincent. A massive paw, black and white, stepped out, the most lethal predator in the snowy mountains, the blue-eyed white tiger. Wilson and Siri June shivered, partly from the cold, but mostly from the monster before them. This was exactly why they never wanted to come here. Vincent instructed his 2 servants, The moment I make my move, run as fast as you can to Blood Castle, all right? He sprinted to the right, taunting, Over here, kitty! The white tiger tracked his movement. If it was the blue-eyed white tiger he knew, it would react, faster to anything that moved quickly. Sure enough, its eyes locked onto Vincent's path.